When this newbie enters the martial academy, he first has to fight one of the older students, and the whole academy gathers to watch him get beaten. But when the fight starts and his opponent starts talking trash, Su-hong suddenly disappears and grabs this loser by the face before smashing him into the ground. The whole academy is shocked, asking who the hell this guy is. They bring him stronger opponents one by one, but he defeats every single one with just one move. His power shocks the professors so much that they bring him to a testing machine to measure his true strength. When Su-hong charges his fist and punches the machine, it goes flying straight into the wall. When the dust finally settles, the stunned students see that he has completely destroyed the testing machine and recorded a power level higher than anyone has ever achieved. But just a few weeks ago, Su-hong was a poor nobody training every day at the gym. Right from the jump, we see how hard he works, currently middle of a heavy sparring session with another disciple. His diamond fist is no joke. His skill actually hit the subtlety level just 2 days ago. In this world, martial arts are broken down into 5 stages. First entry, proficiency, subtlety, great accomplishment, and the peak, perfection. Su-hong is a natural when it comes to the diamond fist. Honestly, nobody in his class can touch him. He tries to hype up a friend to get back into training after a long break, but the guy just isn't feeling the enthusiasm and heads out. As soon as his friend leaves, Teacher Lee shows up with some bad news. It's time to pay up. Su-hong needs 30,000 yuan for his martial arts division registration, and the deadline is next Monday. He asks for a bit more time to scramble the cash together, but Teacher Lee can't bend the rules, despite knowing Su-hong's family is struggling. Feeling the weight of it all, he goes back to training, but his mind is spinning, trying to figure out how to get that money. Life hasn't been easy for him. He was orphaned at 3 when his parents were killed during a beast disaster, and his uncle and aunt took him in. Once his martial arts talent woke up, they went all in on supporting him. In a world like this, martial artists are at the top of the food chain, and Su-hong wants to go pro just to give his family the life they deserve. But now, that registration fee is standing in the way. That night, Su-hong heads home and happens to overhear his aunt and uncle talking. They're stressing over the fees, even considering skipping the rent. His aunt is even willing to give up her medicine to cover the cost, but his uncle insists on picking up another job instead. Heart sinking, our hero pulls himself together and acts like he didn't hear a word before walking through the door. He tries to help his aunt look after his uncle, but they won't hear of it, insisting he get some rest for the next day. Lying in bed later, he can't stop thinking about their sacrifices. He makes a choice. He's going to handle this on his own. There's only one way to make that kind of money in just a few days, so the very next day he finds himself at an illegal underground fighting ring. He takes on the persona of Minotaur, hidden behind a mask of the beast. He's got a shot at $60,000 win, but if he loses after 4 wins, the stakes are gruesome. The crowd is curious about the newcomer, so the announcer goads him into some trash talk to hype the room. Su-hong lets out a roar, challenging everyone and calling their martial arts weak. Since it's an illegal arena, the crowd turns bloodthirsty, wanting to see the newbie get crushed. Su-hong knows the risks, but he's betting everything on his diamond fist. His first opponent looks like an easy pick, plenty of momentum but a weak stance. The guy rushes in, but our boy meets him with a single powerful fist that sends him flying right out of the ring. 1 win down. His second opponent has a much better physique, and Su-hong decides to use the match as live practice for his diamond fist. They clash, and he realizes his own power is superior. He lands a heavy punch to the face, catches the man overcommitting, and follows up with a gut kick that clears the ring. 2 wins. Up in the stands, some big shot sharks are watching, noticing that while he isn't elite yet, he's definitely above average. Meanwhile, Su-hong is realizing just how easily regular disciples fall before his subtlety level diamond fist. After securing a 3rd win, he faces his final obstacle. White Fox, a quasi-level expert. Su-hong knows this will be the fight of his life. As the round starts, he decides to go all out from the first second. But the moment their fists clash, the truth hits him. White Fox isn't just a quasi-expert, he's a true martial artist who's been suppressing his blood chi and real power. The intensity spikes and White Fox lands a triple thunder fist that leaves Su-hong bleeding. The crowd goes wild seeing such a high-level move used on a rookie. Our guy shifts entirely to defense, desperately trying to block the onslaught. White Fox, wanting to see Su-hong's true potential, taunts him to fight back. Before he can find an opening, a heavy blow catches him in the face, sending him to the edge of consciousness. White Fox leans in, taunting him that he won't see a dime of that prize money. He offers a dirty deal that he wanted our dude to work for them, throw some fights, and he will get your money. Su-hong refuses to touch that kind of filth. Annoyed by the rejection, White Fox decides to end his career right there with a finishing kick. Somehow our boy dodges. He stands back up, fueled by pure determination and the dream of giving his family a better life. He refuses to trade his martial morality for easy money. In that moment of absolute resolve, a system awakens within him. It asks one question: what price is he willing to pay for his family and his faith? Without a second of hesitation, Su-hong's mind screams back that he will stake everything. The moment the word leaves his lips, the arena fades away, replaced by an unfamiliar domain. A strange entity stands before him, radiating a golden light that wraps around him like a second skin. Suddenly, a transparent screen flickers into existence, displaying his stats and a new notification, a newbie tutorial. There's no immediate reward for this mission. Instead, the goal is pure growth. He needs to sharpen his martial arts, pushing his diamond fist to great accomplishment while reaching subtlety in 2 new techniques, floating light palm and treading air step. Before he can even process the list, a clone of himself manifests out of thin air and lunges. The clone uses his own diamond fist against him, but with a terrifying textbook precision that Su-hong has never seen. Just as Su-hong prepares to counter, the clone snags his wrist. For a split second, he thinks the creature is trying to teach him a move, until a heavy strike lands squarely on his chest. Wincing, he glances at the system screen. His proficiency has jumped to 10%, up from 7% just a moment ago. The realization hits him like a bolt of lightning that this spar is a fast track to mastery. Fueled by a fresh wave of determination, Su-hong rushes back in. Their fists clash repeatedly, the impact echoing through the golden void. Each exchange polishes his technique, his diamond fist proficiency climbing steadily until it hits 98%. With one final, perfect strike, he breaks through. Diamond fist reaches great accomplishment. But the training doesn't stop there. He immediately pivots into the floating light palm, his movements becoming fluid and weightless. Under the clone's relentless pressure, he masters the treading air step, learning to move as if the very air is solid ground. By the time he hits 100% proficiency in both, he is absolutely spent, his body screaming with exhaustion. Yet, looking at his new mastery, he feels a deep sense of gratitude for the company of his clone. As the tutorial winds down, the system chimes, ready to issue his rewards. It asks if he's ready to return to reality, and Su-hong answers with a firm, breathless yes. The next moment, he finds himself back in the arena, facing White Fox, who remains convinced that the boy's skills are nothing more than cheap theater. The masked fighter challenges him to withstand a direct assault, but to Su-hong, the movements now seem sluggish and predictable. He slips past every strike with effortless grace, eventually landing a counterpunch so devastating it shatters White Fox's mask and leaves the crowd in a state of collective shock. A newcomer has officially bested a quasi-level expert. Ignoring the chaos of the crowd, he secures his prize money and quickly departs. However, his performance has caught the attention of an influential underground boss who is baffled by the boy's mastery of the diamond fist. Though the boss sends his subordinates to track the mysterious fighter, Su-hong's heightened senses allow him to realize he is being followed. He uses the surrounding architecture to scale a wall, leaving his pursuers staring at an empty alleyway. Upon returning home, he presents the stack of cash to his stunned aunt and uncle. To ease their worries about where the money came from, he tells them a small lie, claiming his natural talent earned him a prestigious sponsorship from a local dojo owner. The relief is palpable, the registration fees, the back rent, and his aunt's vital medicine are all finally paid for. Later that night, Su-hong retreats to the rooftop to examine the changes within himself. He discovers a new system feature that converts the merit of defeating strong opponents into martial arts value. Without a second thought, he invests all these points into his blood chi. The result is an immediate, scorching transformation that pushes his cultivation into the quasi-A realm, mending every lingering ache in his body and leaving him feeling more powerful than ever. Needing a proper way to gauge his new strength, he makes his way to the school's outdoor training field under the cover of night. He approaches a Tier 1 combat tester, intending to hit it with only 70% of his power just to see where he stands. The impact is far greater than he anticipated, and the lower quality machine is instantly reduced to scrap metal. Panicking at the thought of a massive repair bill, he quickly flees the scene. Not long after, a principal arrives to find the wreckage, fuming at the blatant destruction of school property. Surveying the damage, the instructor concludes that only the school's top-tier students, Chen Shan or Li Tu, could possess such destructive force. In a stroke of luck for Su-hong, the school's star pupils are now the prime suspects for his late-night workout. The following morning, the fallout of Su-hong's late-night power test lands squarely on Chen Shan. Just as he suspected, the school's top ace is forced to take the blame and the punishment for the destroyed equipment, much to our boy's silent relief. The atmosphere in the school shifts when the principal introduces a guest instructor, an old comrade and third-tier martial artist named Chen Tian. He announces that he will be teaching a C-grade martial art, the Rushing Thunder Fist. A wave of excitement ripples through the students. Such high-level techniques usually cost a fortune to learn. Su-hong realizes this is the very same technique White Fox used against him, a formidable skill where a single strike can hit with the force of multiple blows. Chen Tian commands silence, explaining that he will demonstrate the form 10 times, and it is up to the students to catch what they can. He describes the technique as fierce and domineering. At the entry level, a punch produces a thunderous roar. Proficiency yields 3 rings of sound, while subtlety produces 5. As he moves through the forms, he explains that great accomplishment, his own current level, results in 7 rings. He warns the class to be realistic, noting that even reaching the entry level by the end of the day would be a significant achievement. Hours of grueling practice follow, and most students quickly become frustrated by the complexity of the C-grade movements. Even Suhong's best friend is ready to give up, looking around only to realize Suhong has disappeared from his usual spot. Meanwhile, Chen Shan manages to reach the entry level, earning praise from the principal. However, Chen Tian remains unimpressed, loudly commenting that while Chen Shan might be a genius in this small pond, he would barely pass in a larger city. Believing his visit to be a waste of time, Chen Tian begins to leave with the principal. Their walk is cut short by a sound that stops them dead in their tracks. From a secluded corner of the field, they hear the distinct rhythmic booms of the rushing thunder fist. As they listen, the count surpasses 7 rings. They rush toward the source, only to hear the impossible 9 distinct rings of thunder. Suhong has not only mastered the technique, but has reached the perfection level in a single afternoon. The display is so profound that Chen Dian, watching from the shadows, feels a sudden moment of clarity. Inspired by the perfection of the boy's form, the instructor himself manages to break through his own plateau, reaching 8 rings. Driven by a burning curiosity to meet this hidden genius, he hurries forward, but our boy has already slipped away. Exhausted from the mental strain of mastering a C-grade technique, Suhong heads to his workplace, the Fury Thunder Martial Hall. He is focused on finding a way to farm more martial arts value to reach the official martial artist rank, hoping to find a spar that doesn't require another life-or-death underground match. He arrives to find a tense scene. A rogue-looking student named Li Yan is bullying others for daring to criticize their teacher. Suhong learns that both Li Yan and his instructor are notoriously arrogant, looking down on commoners and providing half-hearted lessons to those without status. When Li Yan prepares to strike a student who spoke out against the unfairness, Suhong steps in, catching the man's fist and suggesting a light spar instead. Li Yan, eager to put the newcomer in his place, challenges him to a formal match in the arena, which Suhong accepts. Before they can begin, the arrogant teacher arrives to conduct a single brief lesson on the raging sea spear art. True to his reputation, he demonstrates the complex form only once and immediately departs, assuming no one is talented enough to grasp it. As the other students complain about the impossible teaching style, Suhong's mind is already dissecting the movement. He identifies the core of the art, a momentum like endless crashing waves and a spear light that strikes like a flood dragon. To the astonishment of everyone present, he picks up a spear and executes the form perfectly in the middle of the arena. The commotion brings Li Yan back out. Seeing that Suhong has already grasped the teacher's lesson, his interest turns into a competitive grudge. He charges into the arena with his own spear, ignoring the warnings from Suhong's friend. Li Yan thrusts forward, utilizing the raging sea spear art at the subtlety level. However, his confidence turns to pure shock when Suhong meets the attack, countering with the exact same technique, already refined to the proficiency level after seeing it just once. Li Yan's attempts to block the incoming spear are useless. He watches in pure disbelief as our dude, who isn't even an official martial artist yet, wields the raging sea spear art with his mid-level proficiency. With a single fluid strike, Suhong disarms his opponent, sending Li Yan's weapon clattering across the floor. The victory is swift, and as the dust settles, a notification appears on Suhong's internal screen. He has earned 35 martial arts value points for defeating a higher-level opponent. He realizes that even simple sparring can be a goldmine for his progression, and decides to seek out more challenges in the future. Li Yan, however, is spiraling into a silent fury. He has spent countless hours agonizing over every thrust and parry of the sea spear technique, only to see a newcomer master it after a single glance. To Li Yan, it feels as though his years of hard work have been rendered meaningless. Before he can lash out, the teacher intervenes, sharply reprimanding Li Yan and telling him that a true martial artist must be able to accept defeat. In truth, the teacher is secretly stunned. To reach proficiency after seeing a demonstration only once is a feat even the elite geniuses of the imperial capital would struggle to achieve. Masking his interest, he forces Li Yan to apologize to our boy. As our hero leaves the hall, he reflects on the day's massive gains. Not only has he added the rushing thunder fist and raging sea spear art to his arsenal, but he has also secured the points needed for his next breakthrough. His mind shifts to his next goal, preparing for the upcoming school exams. He knows the wealthy students will have high-grade equipment, and after today's experience, he realizes he needs a quality alloy spear of his own. The problem, as always, is the cost. Between his aunt's medicine and the family's needs, he has no money left for high-end weapons. A nearby television broadcast provides the answer. The Star City forest is being overrun by ferocious beasts, and the city lord is offering rewards to any martial artist who can hunt them down. When he returns home, his aunt's voice greets him, along with the sound of her scolding his uncle for overworking himself. Even though Suhong provided them with money, his uncle insists on working, wanting to save every penny for Suhong's future rather than becoming a burden. Suhong steps in, taking the bandages from his aunt to tend to his uncle himself. He urges them both to rest, but they remain firm. They are the kind of family that prioritizes his education and martial path over their own comfort. Their selflessness only hardens his resolve to head into the wild. Before facing the dangers of the forest, our boy uses his accumulated martial arts value to boost his blood chi. He reaches a level of 95.2, just a hair's breadth away from becoming a true martial artist. He spends the next 2 days in the school gym, relentlessly grinding until all 5 of his techniques reach the level of perfection. By Saturday, Su-hong arrives at the Star City martial artist base. It is a place he has only ever seen on the news, bustling with warriors with heavy equipment. He looks over the list of beasts and their bounties, feeling a slight chill at the requirement of bringing back ears as proof of the kill. As he observes a seasoned hunter turning in a bag of trophies, his attention is caught by a flashy young man named Ye, who arrives with a large entourage. Judging by the man's arrogant vibe and expensive outfit, Su-hong is reminded of White Fox. The surrounding crowd whispers that Ye is the nephew of the base commander and a notorious attention seeker. Seeing the way Ye carries himself, Su-hong reminds himself that in the wild, the beasts aren't the only things that are dangerous. After clearing the checkpoint with a guard who dismisses him as just another reckless brat, Su-hong steps past the safety of the walls and into the untamed forest. He steps into the untamed wilderness with a grim determination to return with a full harvest. However, after 2 hours of trekking through the dense undergrowth, he hasn't encountered a single ferocious beast. The silence of the forest is unsettling, making him wonder if the creatures have already been cleared out from the outskirts by other hunters. Refusing to return empty-handed, he decides to push deeper into the forest, where the canopy thickens and the shadows grow long. After a while, the atmosphere shifts and he finally encounters a Tier 1 beast, a moon ghost wolf. Su-hong keeps his eyes locked on the unfamiliar predator, watching its every twitch. The wolf is just as ready for the confrontation. It lets out a low, guttural roar and lunges toward him. Our boy immediately shifts his weight, narrowly dodging the beast's razor-sharp claws. He doesn't miss a beat, meeting the wolf's momentum with a heavy punch that sends the creature crashing into a nearby tree. Watching his prey slump, Su-hong feels a surge of adrenaline. The excitement of his first real hunt is even better than he imagined. Realizing he can now one-shot a lower-level Tier 1 beast, he feels ready to test his limits against something stronger. As if on cue, the forest provides a new challenger. A raging black bear emerges from the brush behind him, launching a surprise attack. It meets the same fate as the wolf, falling to a single, precise strike. With his skills at their current level, Su-hong realizes he can dominate Tier 1 beasts with ease, provided he stays clear of Tier 2 territory. He quickly harvests the bear's ears, mindful of the prize money they represent. Suddenly, his system pings with an urgent alert that he has finally accumulated enough martial arts value to break through and become a true martial artist. The system urges him to level up as soon as possible. Before he can find a quiet spot, he senses a heavy, suffocating presence nearby. Intrigued, he rushes toward the source of the power. He arrives at a clearing and skids to a halt. Before him lies a black jade python, a late-stage Tier 1 beast. A group of martial artists is already struggling against it, being tossed aside by its massive coils. The python notices the newcomer and lashes out with its tail. Su-hong barely evades the strike, but the beast is fast. It nearly catches him in a lethal squeeze. He manages to break free with a burst of power, though the effort leaves him breathless and bleeding slightly. Spotting a spear lying near a fallen hunter, he snatches it up. Usually a beast of this caliber requires an entire team of martial artists to cooperate, but Su-hong has the advantage of 5 perfected techniques. Utilizing his treading air step at the perfection level, he blurs through the air, closing the distance instantly. He drives the spear into the python's body using the raging sea spear art, the force of the strike piercing deep into its scales. He catches the weapon and strikes again, aiming for the neck. The massive creature trembles, its sheer size making it difficult to deliver a single fatal blow. Su-hong changes tactics, deciding to weaken it further to create a perfect opening. He follows up with a rushing thunder fist, the sonic booms vibrating through this python's skull. The beast is clearly dazed, its movements becoming sluggish and erratic. Though the prolonged fight is exhausting, he knows a few more strikes will finish it. He prepares his final move, but just as he's about to lunge, a heavy force slams into him from the side. A bulky man from a new group has entered the fray, throwing Su-hong back several meters. Our boy pushes himself to his feet, eyes narrowed as he demands to know who they are. The group steps forward, revealing none other than the flashy young man, Ye. He demands that Su-hong hand over the python and get out of his sight. He recognizes him instantly. Having watched Su-hong head into the forest alone, he assumed the kid would be dead by now. Instead, not only is the rookie alive, but he also stumbled upon a heavily injured python. Meanwhile, our hero quickly sizes up the group. They are all full-fledged martial artists, making a direct confrontation nearly impossible. The brute of the squad steps up, ready to beat Su-hong into submission if he doesn't hand over the python to Ye. But our boy is ready this time. He was only caught off guard before because of the ambush, but his confidence in his own skills hasn't wavered. He counters the brute, who instantly senses a terrifying wave of power. Su-hong's strike hits hard enough to shatter the man's mask, knocking him clean off his feet. Seeing that signature diamond fist, Ye immediately connects the dots. This kid is the Minotaur from the underground ring. Burning for revenge against the first person to ever humiliate him, Ye orders his minions to eliminate him on the spot. As the group rushes forward, Su-hong snatches up his spear and vanishes into the thick brush, drawing them deeper into the dense forest. One of the team members warns everyone to stay alert, noting that the heavy canopy is ideal for a sneak attack. One of the men scoffs, arguing they shouldn't be afraid of a lone rookie when they have the numbers, but Su-hong appears directly behind him. Before the man can even process the threat, a swift blow knocks him out of commission. Ye is taken aback by the terrifying speed, but his remaining crew is even more concerned by the sound echoing through the trees. They distinctly recognize the 9 echoes of the rushing thunder fist. It makes no sense, considering even a rank 3 martial artist would struggle to push that technique to the level of perfection. Yi grows furious at his men's frantic analysis, unable to stomach the fact that Su-hong has mastered both the Diamond Fist and the Thunder Fist to such an absurd degree. From his hiding spot, our boy watches them sweat. In reality, he is way too exhausted from his previous fight with the python to take them all out at once. Picking them off one by one is his only real option. The next moment, he hurls his spear into the brush to create a distraction, and the moment their eyes follow the weapon, he rushes the group and heavily injures another guard. Suddenly, only Ye and one final minion are left standing. The remaining guard is completely terrified by Su-hong's monstrous strength and wants nothing more than to run away. Ye, however, is too blinded by fury to let his revenge slip away, though his anger turns to shock a second later when his last guard is dropped anyway. Now Ye is genuinely tense, unable to comprehend how this boy grew so strong in a matter of days. He senses Su-hong behind him, but when he spins around, there is nothing but empty air. The very next moment, our boy materializes behind him once more, but Ye is fast enough to react this time, unleashing a void-piercing finger. Su-hong narrowly dodges the strike, turning to watch the sheer force of the attack obliterate a massive tree behind him. Completely losing his cool, Ye goes wild, relentlessly spamming the technique and destroying the surrounding forest. Watching the pure destructive output, Su-hong realizes he is dealing with someone who is at least a rank 1 martial artist, his expression twisting into something ugly. Realizing he is outmatched, he resorts to threats, sneering that if Su-hong dares to touch him, he will track down and slaughter his entire family, boasting that he has already memorized the boy's face. He brags about his family's elite position at the very top of the martial arts hierarchy, confident that his status makes him untouchable. But mentioning Su-hong's family is a fatal mistake. Something snaps inside our hero, and his expression goes completely cold. Moving with lightning speed, he blurs past Ye's defenses and appears directly behind him. Before Ye can even finish his sentence, Su-hong delivers a brutal punch straight to his face, launching the arrogant air across the clearing. Su-hong can tolerate a haughty attitude, but threatening the people who took him in and sacrificed everything for him is a one-way ticket to a death sentence. Ye slumps, heavily injured and completely at a loss. He cannot comprehend how someone who isn't even a full-fledged martial artist can possess this kind of monstrous strength. As Ye opens his mouth to demand answers, a massive shadow falls over him. The Black Jade Python, having recovered some of its strength while they were fighting, re-enters the fray. Before Ye can even scream, the massive serpent lunges and swallows him whole. With the annoying distraction taken care of, the python turns its gaze back to the only threat left standing. Su-hong grips his weapon, facing down the rejuvenated beast alone. Meanwhile, Ye's unconscious minions finally groan and wake up, immediately looking around for their arrogant master. Their confusion turns to sheer panic when they see our hero charging right toward them. Even though the boy shouts a warning for them to run, their pride gets the better of them, and they prepare to take him down. They realize too late that Su-hong isn't attacking them. He is running for his life. The Black Jade Python thunders right behind him. Just as the beast snaps its jaws to devour him, Su-hong leaps high into the air. One of the clueless minions is killed instead. To Su-hong's surprise, his system pings, awarding him 30 martial arts value points for the indirect kill. Using the massive serpent as a lethal hazard, Su-hong maneuvers through the clearing, letting the python crush and swallow the remaining goons one by one, racking up a massive horde of points. When the beast finally focuses entirely on him, he leaps into the air to dodge a devastating tail swipe. He now has more than enough points to trigger an official breakthrough into the martial artist ranks, but he desperately needs a safe place to sit down and process it. Sprinting away from the giant snake, he spots a narrow cave opening in the rock face ahead. He slides inside just in time. The entrance is far too small for the python's massive bulk to breach. Safe for the moment, he opens his system interface. He has accumulated a whopping 504 martial arts value points. Without hesitation, he dumps them all into his blood chi. The transformation is violent. His core ignites and his body burns as if pure lava is pumping through his veins instead of blood. When the scorching energy finally settles, his blood chi hits 100, officially breaking through the barrier to become a rank 1 martial artist. Feeling the raw, explosive power vibrating through his muscles, Su-hong turns back toward the cave entrance. The python senses the sudden, terrifying shift in his aura and hisses in caution. Su-hong steps out and thrusts his spear forward with newfound speed and precision, blinding the beast. Dropping the weapon, he unleashes his perfected Diamond Fist and rushing Thunder Fist in a relentless, overlapping barrage. The final thunderous strike kills the python. A notification confirms a massive reward of 92 martial value points. As the adrenaline fades, Su-hong realizes a practical problem. The hunting bounty requires cutting off a beast's ears as proof, but a snake doesn't have any ears to harvest. Shrugging it off, he decides to leave the massive snake behind. Before heading deeper into the forest, he searches the area where Ye was attacked. Curious about the powerful technique that Air had used against him, Su-hong rumbles through the gear and discovers a hidden manual for the void-piercing finger. When night falls, he retreats back into the safety of the cave. He spends hours memorizing every line of the entry-level cultivation path for the new technique, then closes his eyes to enter his mental training domain. The familiar clone materializes before him, and the simulation begins. The training is brutal. Because the void-piercing finger is a high-tier B-grade martial art, it drains his energy far quicker than his older C-grade skills. By the time his mental simulation ends, he is coughing from sheer exhaustion, but he successfully forces the technique past the entry level. Over the next 3 days, Su-hong stays in the wild, using the local wildlife to test his new lethality. By the end of his training, he can drop a massive wild boar with a single, effortless strike of his void-piercing finger, which has already climbed to the proficiency level. Satisfied with his growth, he decides it is finally time to head back to civilization. The Star City martial artist base is as crowded and noisy as ever, packed with freelancers turning in their bounties. The local crowd is currently cheering for a celebrated group called the Thunder Squad, who just turned in a massive haul worth 230,000 Blue Star coins. However, Su-hong completely outshines them when he steps up to the counter. His sack is overflowing with trophies exclusively from rank 1 ferocious beasts. The appraiser tallies the massive haul, awarding him a staggering 406,000 Blue Star coins. Instead of celebrating, Su-hong feels a pang of regret as he realizes he gathered way too much attention and wishes he had brought back a smaller harvest. Before he can slip out, the entire base goes into a sudden lockdown. Ye Feng's uncle, Ye Qi, a powerful high-ranking manager of the base, has just discovered the murder of his nephew. Furious, he declares that absolutely no one will leave the premises until the culprit is found. While the other hunters are secretly thrilled to hear that a notorious scum like Ye Feng is dead, they keep their heads down. Ye Qi is in a venomous mood. Knowing that Ye Feng was carrying the rare void-piercing finger manual, he orders his men to strip search every single person in the base, looking for the book. Su-hong remains completely calm, knowing the physical evidence of the murder points entirely to the python. However, his massive payout makes him a prime target for suspicion. Ye Qi stalks over to him, his shadow falling over the boy. Looking down with a dark, dangerous gaze, the commander notes how remarkably skilled a young man must be to bring back a haul worth over 400,000 coins all by himself. The assistant chimes in, pointing out that Su-hong is only a tier 1 early-stage rookie at best, making it highly suspicious that he harvested so many beasts on his own. She openly suspects that he must have picked up Ye Feng's dropped backpack. When the guards step forward to restrain him, Su-hong's spear moves with a blinding speed that the guards can't even track, stopping them in their tracks. He calmly informs them that he is a student at Star City No. 1 school, making it a very bad idea to search him without cause. Ye Tsai hesitates. He knows the school's principal is fiercely protective of his students. Besides, if this kid is truly a monstrous genius, capable of hunting that many beasts alone, offending him would be a massive mistake. Shifting to a polite tone, Ye Qi explains that his nephew was murdered and a secret family martial art manual was stolen, forcing him to check everyone. Su-hong scoffs, noting that they shouldn't just wrong an innocent person. Ye Qi offers a 10,000 yuan compensation just for the trouble of the search, but Su-hong counters, demanding 30,000 yuan instead. Seeing him cooperate, the guards thoroughly check his belongings and find absolutely nothing. The evidence on the crew points entirely to the python, and as for the manual, Su-hong had already burned the physical book back in the forest after memorizing it. Completely cleared of suspicion, he walks away with his massive bounty and the extra compensation cash. While Ye Qi continues his frantic hunt for the culprit, Su-hong's only goal is to head to his room at the martial arts base underground hostel, freshen up, change his clothes, and head to the Martial Artist Association for his official assessment and registration. He needs to get his hands on an official guidance technique as soon as possible. Back in his room, he finally has a moment of peace to check the system. He is stunned to see he accumulated 534 value points while relentlessly practicing his new technique on the beasts in the wild. He opens his stats to analyze what it takes to reach the mid-tier martial artist rank, realizing he needs 200 blood chi, which translates to 1,000 more value points. If he dumps all his current points into blood chi, he will still be 40 points short of the mid-stage. However, he notices he has never spent points on his mortal bottle or spirit stats. Curious about their effects and with plenty of points to spare, he decides to experiment. First, he invests some points into spirit. To his disappointment, he doesn't feel any immediate change or improvement. Shrugging, he shifts his focus and dumps points into mortal body. The impact is instant. A massive wave of raw physical power surges through his muscles. Seeing the results, he then invests 200 points directly into his blood chi. The combination is overwhelming, leaving him feeling as though he possesses infinite strength. He waits an hour for the explosive energy to settle, making sure his physical appearance returns to normal so he doesn't have to explain a sudden muscle growth spurt to the public. Once he is completely composed, he makes his way to the Martial Artist Association. To pass the official registration assessment, he needs to prove he has at least 100 blood chi points and a combat power value exceeding 1,000. Standing before the testing arena, Su-hong is ready to make it official. The lobby of the Martial Artist Association is buzzing with activity as candidates line up for their turn. Looking at Su-hong arriving all by himself without a master or an entourage, especially at such a young age, the onlookers assume he is just a clueless rookie trying his luck for the experience. The testing moves quickly, with some candidates passing and others failing under the strict eyes of the evaluators. The crowd erupts into excitement when a candidate named Li Ming passes his test. It is a massive number for a newcomer, and the hype only grows when people realize he is the personal disciple of the Thunder Hall master, Jiang Ming. Hearing that name, Su-hong instantly recalls the arrogant, biased teacher from the martial hall and wonders just how many entitled students the man has running around. As Su-hong steps up for his turn, Li Ming watches him with a haughty smirk, fully confident that this random kid won't come close to matching his achievements. That illusion shatters a second later. The testing monitor blinks to life, displaying Su-hong's raw blood chi at an absurd 123 points. The crowd gasps and Li Ming's smile vanishes. He quickly tries to console himself, muttering that high blood chi points don't mean a thing if a candidate lacks actual combat power. Now it is time for Su-hong to face the combat tester. Having officially advanced his martial arts rank and heavily upgraded his mortal body stat, he initially considers holding back and using only 40% of his strength. He hesitates, realizing that holding back too much might not give him a high enough score to make a clean impact, so he decides to unleash exactly half of his total power. Even at a mere 50%, the sheer force of his physical strength is monstrous. Instead of just registering a score, his casual strike completely throws the testing machine. The room goes dead silent as the final calculation flashes on the damaged screen. 3,004 combat power points. What leaves everyone in absolute shock is the fact that Su-hong didn't even use a specific martial arts technique. It was just a raw, unrefined strike. For perspective, a score of 3,000 is the peak standard reserved for a high-tier, rank 1 martial artist. Meanwhile, in the executive offices, Star City Martial Arts Association President Wu Lingxian is in a terrible mood. Her rival counterpart from the Yang City branch recently produced a rare martial arts genius and won't stop bragging about it. Wu Lingxian desperately needs a prodigy of her own to secure her standing within the association hierarchy, or her position will be in serious jeopardy. As if answering her unasked prayer, her assistant bursts into the office, completely panicked. Breathless, the assistant reports that a literal monster has just destroyed the testing machine downstairs, scoring over 3,000 points in raw combat power without a single technique. Wu Lingxian freezes, her interest piquing at the news. Su-hong heads toward the central hall, intending to go up to the second floor to officially register his status and collect his newly earned martial artist stipend. However, the receptionist stops dead in her tracks as President Wu Lingxian herself walks down to fetch him. The president instructs Su-hong to follow her, and as he looks at the woman, a powerful rank 5 martial artist, he realizes she is different than he expected. He follows her straight into the executive office. Upon learning that Su-hong is a student from Star City No. 1 school, Wu Lingxian can't help but complain that the principal is always complaining to her about only having 2 above-average students this year, yet he has been hiding a literal monster like our hero the whole time. He then politely asks what the president wants with him, reminding her that he only came to register and get his credentials. Wu Lingxian assures him that his monthly stipend and official paperwork are already being processed, but she brought him here because she intends to personally teach him a guidance technique. To gauge his foundation, she asks how much he already knows about them. Su Yizhong recites what he remembers from his textbooks, explaining that the essence of heaven and earth is divided into specific attributes, and guidance techniques are the methods used to absorb that energy to strengthen oneself. He adds that a martial artist needs a technique that corresponds exactly to a specific attribute to absorb it properly. Wu Lingxian smiles and explains that a true guidance technique is far more than just a passive cultivation method. To demonstrate, she activates the Heavenly Flame guidance technique. As she draws in the surrounding fire attribute essence, the air around her warps, and she explains that this energy allows a martial artist's attacks to possess the raw, destructive power of fire. With a slight flex of her hand, she creates a controlled, explosive burst of flames, showing him how a martial artist can project an attribute externally to massively increase their attack range and damage. She notes that while enshrouding a fist in pure elemental energy is incredibly difficult for a rank 1 rookie, even catching a tiny hint of an attribute at his level is a massive advantage. Su-hong is completely taken aback. His textbooks never mentioned that guidance techniques could be weaponized for direct offense. Wu Lingxian goes on to break down the 7 primary attributes of Heavenly Essence: metal, wood, water, fire, earth, lightning, and wind. While every element has its own distinct strengths and weaknesses, she explains that in terms of pure, raw destructive power, lightning ranks first, metal ranks second, and fire ranks third. However, she emphasizes that a martial artist can't just pick whichever element they think looks coolest. Everything depends entirely on their natural affinity. To find out where he stands, she produces a specialized crystal ball used for affinity testing, explaining that the brighter and larger the glow inside the crystal, the higher the person's affinity is. She mentions that an ordinary martial artist usually scores between 20 and 30% affinity, whereas her own fire affinity sits at an impressive 80%. Handing over the crystal, she tells him that with his monstrous physical talent, he might just be lucky enough to match her 80% score. Hearing that President Wu Lingxian reached her high rank at such a young age with an 80% affinity leaves Su-hong genuinely impressed. She figures that hitting 90% would be a spectacular result for himself. But when his hand touches the crystal ball, the device doesn't just glow, it erupts into a blinding, flawless crimson light. The monitor registers a perfect 100% fire affinity. Wu Lingxian stares at the display, her mind racing. An 80% affinity means 20% of the elemental energy leaks out during cultivation, but a perfect score means Su-hong can absorb fire essence with zero waste. She is absolutely ecstatic, never expecting a small place like Star City to produce such a monstrous prodigy. Our boy, on the other hand, is secretly getting a bit greedy. While fire is great, he originally had his sights set on lightning for its unmatched destructive power. Wanting to check his options, he reaches out to touch the lightning affinity crystal. It instantly flares to a perfect 100%. Wu Lingxian's jaw drops, her initial annoyance transforming into absolute shock. Before she can even speak, Su-hong moves down the line, touching the remaining elemental crystals. One by one, every single attribute, metal, wood, water, earth, and wind, ignites to a flawless 100%. The president is completely paralyzed by what she is witnessing. She always considered herself a rare genius for reaching rank 5 by the age of 30, but sitting in front of a boy who completely defies the laws of logic, she realizes she vastly overestimated her own talent. Su-hong is a monster, pure and simple. While the president spirals into an existential crisis, Su-hong weighs his options. He wonders if he should just stick to lightning or try to cultivate all of them, ultimately deciding that letting his other perfect affinities go to waste would be a shame. When he asks Wu Lingxian for the guidance techniques for all 7 attributes, she snaps out of her trance and quickly interjects. She warns him that even with boundless talent, a person's time and mental energy are strictly limited. She tells him a cautionary tale about a legendary fool who tried to master every single element, only to remain stuck as a rank 1 martial artist for decades. She begs him to focus on just 1 or 2. Su-hong quickly reassures her, claiming he just wants to look over the manuals to see which elements feel the most natural in practice. Accepting his logic, she promises to hand over the materials, but reiterates her warning to stay grounded. She then shifts the conversation to his upcoming school exams, explaining that the friction on the battlefield of the heavens has recently intensified. A massive war is brewing between humanity and a myriad races, forcing various countries to pour their resources into setting up elite genius training camps. She wants Su-hong to secure the top spot in the upcoming exams, so she can officially recommend him for the program. Hearing about the looming war strikes a painful chord in Su-hong's memory. It was the last great war that wiped out his entire bloodline, leaving him with no one but his aunt and uncle. The desire to protect his remaining family is all the motivation he needs. He accepts the challenge, determined to grow strong enough to keep his loved ones safe. Later that day, he returns home and proudly presents his official martial artist credentials to his family. Seeing the certificate, his aunt and uncle burst into tears of pure joy. He assures his uncle that with his new 10,000 yuan monthly stipend and his hunting earnings, nobody has to work themselves to the bone anymore. He is finally ready to carry the weight of the household. Late that night, our hero sits cross-legged on his bed, practicing his newly acquired fire guidance technique. He follows the breathing patterns until a faint plume of heat and smoke rises from his knuckles. He frowns, feeling like the elemental energy is incredibly weak and barely noticeable. Curious, he opens his system interface. A brand new column for guidance techniques has indeed been unlocked, confirming he successfully learned the form. However, what catches his eye is a specific stat. The technique is listed as Level 1. Su-hong blinks, a wave of nervousness washing over him. President Wu had gone into extensive detail about attributes, leakage, and cultivation, but she had never mentioned anything about a guidance technique having numerical levels. If such a mechanic existed for everyone, she definitely would have brought it up. The realization hits him like a bolt of lightning. Leveling up a guidance technique is a feature exclusive entirely to his system, so his first thought is to check if he can use his martial arts value to level up the guidance technique. The moment he tries, a system alert pops up informing him that his current value points are nowhere near enough. It looks like he's going to have to farm a lot more points later. For now, he decides to get a grip on the other element manuals he received. He closes his eyes and sinks back into deep meditation to start the grueling process. After several hours of intense focus, he successfully grasps the basics of the Thunder, Water Marsh, Thick Earth, and Spirit Wind guidance techniques. The problem? Every single one of them registers at level 1, and the sudden cocktail of different spiritual energies starts repelling each other inside his body. He breaks out into a cold sweat as his chest tightens. Suddenly, President Wu's warning about the fool who tried to cultivate every element and ended up stuck at rank 1 for decades makes total sense. He realizes that under normal circumstances, a person can only channel one attribute at a time. Every time he tries to cycle from one element to the next, the residual energies clash violently and eventually fizzle out into nothing. Staring at his stats, he thinks about the volatile, aggressive nature of both lightning and fire. Since they share a similar destructive vibe, he wonders if it's possible to fuse them together. He takes a deep breath and tries to force the two energies to merge, but they instantly repel each other. Refusing to give up, he tries again and again, pushing through the strain until the first light of dawn breaks through his window. Su-hong keeps pushing through this frustration, practicing the fusion over and over again. After dozens of failed trials, a breakthrough finally happens. The volatile sparks of lightning and the searing heat of fire click together, merging into a single, unstable energy source. Eager to test this newly fused technique, he heads straight to the Star City Citizen Martial Arts Plaza. He stands before a Tier 3 combat power tester, a much higher grade machine than the one he broke at school. Remembering how his raw, unrefined half power hit 3,000 points last time, he decides to play it safe and use only 30% of his total strength. First, he tests a strike using just his lightning element. The display blinks, registering over 2,300 points. Taking a deep breath, he channels the newly fused power of both fire and lightning into his fist at that same 30% output. He strikes. The screen flashes violently, surging past 3,000 points. Su-hong quickly calculates his scaling. With a base blood chi of 123 and his upgraded mortal body, combining just two elements at less than a third of his power already matches a peak rank 1 martial artist. He can't help but wonder what kind of legendary destruction he will unleash if he manages to fuse all 7 attributes. Naturally, his next goal is to add a third element to the mix. He spends hours trying to force a 3-attribute fusion, but by the end of it, he is sweating like hell and gasping for air. Balancing 3 contrasting elements is several times harder than 2. He tries to rearrange the combination order of the 7 attributes multiple times, but hits a complete brick wall. Realizing his current mental focus isn't enough, he deduces that leveling up the guidance techniques through the system is his only real shot at mastering the fusion. To do that, he needs a massive haul of martial value points, making tomorrow's monthly school exam the perfect hunting ground. The next day at school, the atmosphere is electric. The principal stands before the student body to announce the details of the Elite Genius training camp. This time, the exam format will be completely different from the usual routine. The stakes are massive. The training camp boasts an endless pool of cultivation resources, and the mentors are rumored to be legendary great grandmasters. Their school has been allotted exactly 3 slots for its top students. Everyone hypes up at the news. Su Amwok recalls President Wu's promise that she would personally recommend him if he got the top mark. But hearing the principal speak, he realizes he only needs to secure a spot in the top 3 to punch his ticket. While Su-hong was away in the forest, the school's top aces, Chen Shan and Li Tu, have officially broken through to become full-fledged martial artists. It turns out, the principal kept guest instructor Chen Tian around to give them extended private lessons. Thanks to that high-level coaching, both aces have pushed their blood chi past the 100-point threshold and successfully mastered the 3-ring echo of the rushing Thunder Fist. Both of them are locking eyes, ready to give each other a brutal time in the arena. Meanwhile, Chen Tian is scanning the crowd, completely disinterested in the current aces. His only reason for staying is to find the anonymous prodigy who executed the flawless 9-ring rushing Thunder Fist the other day. Since Su-hong had slipped away so fast, he still has no idea which student actually performed the miracle. The tension spikes when Jiang Ming, the arrogant Thunder Hall master, marches onto the field with his own top disciples, demanding a friendly spar with the school's best. The principal knows exactly what Jiang Ming is up to. The man is just here to humiliate his institution on exam day. Unfortunately, the principal can't openly refuse the challenge without looking weak, and he isn't entirely confident his students can beat Jiang Ming's elite disciples. As Jiang Ming begins to talk trash, one of his apprentices spots Su Hong standing casually in the student lineup. The apprentice pales, instantly recognizing the monster. He frantically whispers the identity to Jiang Ming. Jiang Ming's smirk completely vanishes. He never expected the monster to be a regular student at this school, and he knows damn well that none of his disciples stand a snowball's chance in hell against him. Terrified of having his star pupils publicly crippled, Jiang Ming immediately switches his tone to an overly polite apology. He loudly claims he was just joking about a spar and practically begs to concede before a single punch is thrown. The principal and Chen Tian exchange bewildered looks, completely misunderstanding the sudden retreat. To them, Jiang Ming's loud, sarcastic-sounding surrender feels like an even deeper, backhanded mockery of their school's strength. Before the confusion can settle, the official exam brackets are drawn, and Su Hong is called up for his first match. His assigned instructor looks at him with a bit of pity, gently advising him not to push himself too hard, noting that getting severely injured on day one isn't worth it. Across the ring, his opponent steps up, brimming with cocky confidence and trash-talking about how easily he is going to crush Su Hong. The referee signals the start of the match. Su Hong doesn't even blink, and moving faster than the eye can follow, he delivers a single casual swipe. His opponent is instantly thrown across the arena, crashing hard into the dirt, completely knocked out cold. The stadium goes dead silent. Su Hong's instructor and his best friend stand there with utter shock, left wondering when on earth this average student became strong enough to one-shot a martial artist. There is quite a murmur in the audience after our boys' match, especially between Chen Tian and the principal. Chen Tian wonders where this genius was when he was teaching, and the principal admits it was his own negligence because he didn't find his talent earlier. Meanwhile, Tian is racking his brain trying to remember where he has seen him before. At the same time, the semi-final match between Chen Shan and Li Tu becomes incredibly fierce, and no one can predict the winner. Li Tu rushes toward his opponent, telling him that since both of them are at the 3-ring level of the Thunder Fist, Chen Shan won't win unless he pulls out an ultimate technique. Chen Shan is also burning with power, determined to claim the #1 position in the school. The crowd is shocked to see that he can actually project an attribute externally, utilizing a fire affinity. But Li Tu doesn't back down. He projects a metal attribute to counter the flames. Not only that, but his metal attribute helps him unleash a 5-ring Thunder Fist, which completely shocks his opponent. The principal and Chen Tian are stunned to see Li Tu hiding this kind of potential, mastering an attribute and pushing the technique to 5 rings in just 10 days, which is an impressive feat. However, they are completely oblivious to our boy's true talent. Since the final match is set between Li Tu and our hero, the old men assume Su Hong can't win without a guidance technique or high-level Thunder Fist art, completely unaware that our dude has already mastered both. Unlike those two old fools, Jiang Ming knows our boy's worth and decides to bet his money on him. Assuming it's a losing bet against our boy, both the principal and Chen Tian gladly accept the wager. Now, the final is started between our boy and Li Tu. The guy is way too cocky, thinking Su Hong is just a lucky guy who reached the finals because he didn't have to face either him or Shan in the earlier brackets. Li Tu tells him he can only hope for second place. Meanwhile, our boy actually admits that Li Tu is a worthy opponent, considering all of his previous matchups were completely worthless. When it comes down to who will claim the first place position, Li Tu rushes forward, entirely confident that the title is his. To get the match over with quickly, he unleashes his 5-ring Thunder Fist right from the beginning. Everyone in the crowd thinks our boy is done for. Meanwhile, our guy wants to test his raw physical strength, so instead of dodging, he meets his opponent head-on. The audience gasps and someone even shouts for the ref to save him. The two opponents clash their fists at full speed, but Li Tu is instantly shocked to find that Su Hong can neutralize his 5-ring Thunder Fist with ease. Li Tu attacks again with even more ferocity, but our dude just trashes the attack head-on, fighting him blow for blow. Each punch from our boy is so incredibly heavy that it makes his opponent question his very humanity. Our boy's best friend and instructor are taken aback, wondering how the kid can withstand a high-level Thunder Fist using regular physical punches. It makes Chen Tian question whether Su Hong possesses a special physique to survive such a match. However, the instructor still thinks Li Tu holds the ultimate advantage because of the element attribute our boy seemingly lacks. At this stage, Li Tu tells him to give up, claiming he will be the true winner. Little does he know, our boy's initial plan was just to gauge his physical strength against him. But now that Li Tu is no longer holding back and is using a full power that could explode at any time, Su Hong decides to put in a little more effort as well. He projects a lightning attribute, completely shocking everyone in the arena, including his opponent. Both administrators are stuck in their tracks, staring at his immensely powerful affinity alongside his monstrous physical strength. The two opponents clash fists once more. Lee Tu immediately senses that Su-hong's affinity is vastly superior to his own. The next moment, our boy haughtily tells him that since Lee Tu showed off his ultimate technique with the 5-ring Thunder Fist, it's time to show him a real ultimate move. Su-hong unleashes the 9-ring Thunder Fist art, instantly claiming a decisive victory. The entire hall is buzzing and murmuring, with everyone offering their own shocked opinions. Our boy has not only reached 9 rings at such a young age, but he has officially surpassed the master who taught the technique. Chen Tian finally remembers where he saw those movements before. Su-hong was the anonymous person he witnessed reaching 9 rings the other day. The instructor wonders with a nervous energy how people from prominent backgrounds will react when a genius like him enters the elite training camp. The principal is already predicting that our boy has the future of a soaring dragon ahead of him once he joins the camp. After all, Star City is just a small puddle. He guesses that Su-hong's true place belongs in the magic capital, or the imperial capital, to secure the bright future ahead of him. After the exams, Su-hong returns home to a household buzzing with celebration. His aunt and uncle are absolutely thrilled to hear he secured the first place position, meaning his ticket to the elite genius training camp is officially punched. But just as they sit down to enjoy a celebratory meal, a loud, obnoxious knocking rattles the front door. Standing on the threshold is the mother of Lin Nian, Su-hong's classmate who placed 4th in the monthly exam. Since only the top 3 slots get to join the genius training camp, she has come with a desperate, arrogant demand. She wants Su-hong to voluntarily give up his position so her son can take his place. She offers him 30,000 yuan, acting completely cocky as if a poor family like theirs would instantly jump at the cash. The family stares at her, completely lost for words at her sheer nerve. Seeing their hesitation, the woman grows angry, sneering that a high-level camp is far too dangerous for someone of Su-hong's low background anyway. She claims the curriculum involves an abundance of experimental cultivation pills and forces students to practice dangerous, high-grade martial arts that could break a weakling. Hearing this, his aunt and uncle exchange worried glances. His uncle turns to Su-hong, gently asking if he will really be okay if he goes through with this. Looking into his nephew's confident eyes, the uncle turns back to the woman and completely shuts her down, firmly stating that they trust their nephew completely and her money is no good here. Shoved out of the house empty-handed, the furious woman stomps away, inwardly determined to find another way to strip him of his position. Once she is gone, Su-hong quietly apologizes to his uncle for keeping them in the dark about the training camp's intense environment. His uncle just brushes it off with a warm smile, telling Su-hong that he is the educated one in the family and knows what's best for his own future, keeping his full trust in the boy. His aunt wants him to just stay safe. Late that night, Su-hong stands alone on the rooftop. The woman's threats don't scare him, but they make him realize he needs to become significantly stronger to ensure his own survival and keep his family from worrying. Despite fighting dozens of matches during the monthly exams, his system points haven't increased as much as he hoped. He only managed to bank 285 value points in total. Knowing the elite camp will be packed with advanced martial artists and hidden prodigies holding their own trump cards, he decides to prioritize his physical durability. He dumps his points straight into his mortal body stat, pushing it up to 64.6%. He can't help but wonder what kind of godlike constitution he will awaken once that stat hits a full 100%. Suddenly, a notification pops up on his internal screen, leaving him in total shock. 2 of his elemental guidance techniques have officially climbed to level 2. He is taken back at first, then realizing that he can actually raise his guidance technique levels through regular, hard practice without relying purely on system points. Realizing the potential, he immediately sits cross-legged and begins cycling both his fire and lightning affinities simultaneously, forcing them to push his limits. Hours pass under the night sky until a sudden burst of immense power ripples through his veins. Not only do the techniques successfully advance to level 3, but the breakthrough directly boosts his raw blood ki by 3 additional points. The next morning, the time finally comes for him to head out to the genius training camp. Packing his bags, his aunt emotionally assures him that he can walk away and return home any time if the pressure becomes too much, while his uncle gives him a firm, trusting nod. As Su-hong walks down the street, his aunt teases her husband, noting that he was just as worried as she was, but merely hid it so the boy wouldn't carry their anxiety into the camp. Our hero continues on foot toward the designated departure station, mentally preparing for the challenges ahead. Suddenly, the sleek purr of a luxury car cuts through the morning air as it pulls up right beside him. President Wu is in the driver's seat. She tells him to get in. Her purpose is simple. She wants to prepare him for the absolute meat grinder of a training camp that lies ahead. As the regional president, Wu Lingxian has full access to the official records of all the incoming participants, and some of the profiles are deeply intimidating. She warns him that a few of the top-tier prodigies are already on the verge of breaking through to become rank 2 martial artists. Worse yet, the absolute lowest-tier martial arts technique any of them has mastered is B rank. Su-hong handles the news quietly. It blows his mind a bit that martial artists his own age can already be pushing rank 2, but he quickly finds a silver lining. With the system's help, mastering high-level B-rank martial arts is basically a walk in the park for him. Wu Lingxian keeps her eyes on the road, a soft smile playing on her lips. She genuinely trusts this kid. Even though Su-hong lacks the massive family backing and endless mountain of resources his rivals have been pampered with, she is entirely certain that his raw talent will let him surpass every single one of them over time. Glancing sideways, she catches that even after hearing about the terrifying skills of the competitors he is about to face, he doesn't show a single hint of fear. Wu Lingxian lets out a quiet sigh, realizing she was probably worrying about absolutely nothing. After a short while, the principal himself escorts his top 3 students to the Genius Training Camp, which is hidden deep within the monster-infested Tianlin mountain range. The other students panic the moment they hear the location. The principal quickly assures them that a Grandmaster will be guarding the camp to ensure their safety. The Tianlin mountain range spans across several cities, including Star City and Yang City, and it boasts not only a denser concentration of spiritual energy, but also an overwhelming number of monsters, including beast kings that can rival a human Grandmaster. To make matters worse, the local wildlife is incredibly formidable. Even the Tier 1 monsters here are far more vicious than those found elsewhere, meaning an ordinary Rank 2 martial artist wouldn't stand a chance against them. On the way to the site, countless monsters track their movement, keeping a predatory eye on the group. While the other students shiver under the terrifying gaze of the beasts, our boy realizes that this training camp operates strictly on the law of the jungle. The atmosphere is crazy, but he actually likes it. When they finally reach the perimeter, the camp guards tell them to halt and wait until every single participant arrives. Apparently, they all have to pass another entrance exam before they are allowed inside the gates. They are forced to wait around because a group of rich punks is also participating, and everyone has to sit tight until they show up. Finally, a rally of luxury cars arrives, and the wealthy heirs step out. Among them is Lin Xingge from the prominent Lin family. Yan is a psychic who is already on the verge of becoming a Rank 2 martial artist. Alongside them is Wang Tiantuo, the son of the city lord, a barbarian-like youth whose primary elemental affinity sits at an impressive 95%, supplemented by a rare, special physique. Looking at these high and mighty kids, our boy wonders if these are the exact participants President Wu warned him about. He is burning with curiosity to see just how special they really are. Without wasting any time, the instructor announces the start of the exam. To earn entry into the camp, the students must acquire a token that serves as their key. These tokens have been deliberately implanted into monsters scattered throughout the Tianlin mountain range, stretching up to 30 kilometers from the current base. Li Tu and Chen Shan immediately calculate the risks, realizing that while the task sounds straightforward on paper, the deep mountains harbor completely unpredictable monsters, making it incredibly dangerous. For our boy, however, the task is quite simple, and it even gives him a perfect opportunity to farm some more martial arts value points. When a student from a poorer background tries to raise a hand and asks what happens if they encounter a high-level monster far beyond their rank, the instructor nonchalantly replies that they can just consider it bad luck. He adds that they will merely be eliminated from the exam, as a rescue team will step in to save them. The participants try to protest, arguing that a system like this makes the entire competition depend purely on luck. The instructor gives them a cruel reality check. He snaps back that this is a harsh world and a real battlefield, because their ultimate goal is to reach the battlefield of the heavens. If they want to avoid high-level monsters, they need to get stronger, otherwise the weak will simply be outnumbered and eaten by the enemy. Hearing this, one of the wealthy students scoffs, telling the complainers that if they are so afraid of death, they should just quit right now instead of whining. Provoked by the insult, another student glares back and demands the rich punk repeat himself, threatening to cripple him on the spot. The instructor steps up, reminding everyone that violence is strictly prohibited while they are on the base. However, he drops a chilling warning. Once they step out onto the actual battlefield, they are entirely on their own. Out there, they can exact revenge on each other, or easily steal tokens from the weaker participants. It really is the law of the jungle. At this rate, barely half of the participants will even make it to the training camp gates. On the other hand, a dark flash of greed crosses Su-hong's mind. Seeing all these competitive, high-level martial artists gathered in one place makes him realize just how many martial value points are up for grabs if he plays his cards right. The moment the instructor gives the signal, the crowd surges forward, everyone sprinting to get into the jungle as early as possible to lock down the easiest targets. The two participants who were arguing earlier don't even wait to hit the tree line. They immediately launch their attacks at each other. Their fists clash with a loud resonance as they engage in a full-blown, chaotic battle right at the perimeter. Su-hong pauses for a brief second to analyze their movements. Watching them trade blows, he doesn't find anything particularly special about these so-called geniuses. Defeating them in their current state won't net him a decent amount of martial value, so he decides to bypass the drama, head deeper into the mountains, and hunt down high-value monsters instead. However, he is stopped dead in his tracks by their petty verbal fighting. The rich kid is relentlessly taunting the poorer student, while the poor one is being far too arrogant, screaming that his talent means he shouldn't be categorized with the common paupers. The display actually amuses Suhong enough that he changes his mind. It feels like the perfect time to teach them both a lesson and farm some easy value points. He casually approaches the brawling duo, picking up a random wooden shaft from the ground. He tosses it between his hands and tells them they should play with this stick instead of embarrassing themselves. The rich kid grows furious that a random nobody is looking down on him, while the poor student assumes Suhong is just a lower-level weakling trying to act tough. Banding together in their shared rage, they decide to team up and crush the intruder first. The arrogant student rushes forward, aiming a heavy strike straight at Suhong's chest. Suhong shifts his weight effortlessly. With a single explosive drive, he plants his knee deep into the student's gut. The sheer force of the impact sends the boy flying backward through the air until he crashes into the dirt, completely incapacitated. The rich kid freezes, completely astonished. His temporary ally is at the exact same rank as him, yet the guy just got single-handedly dropped in a fraction of a second. Before his brain can even process the danger, Suhong blurs forward. The wooden shaft whips through the air with a sharp whistle, striking the rich kid hard and leaving him heavily injured on the forest floor. The rich kid hits the dirt right beside his temporary rival, gasping for breath. Suhong looks down at them. He has zero patience for cultivators who look down on ordinary people just because of their background. Up in the monitoring room, the exam supervisors watch the screen in absolute disbelief. They twist their heads, wondering where this random kid came from, casually stepping into a brawl between two of their hyped prospects and one-shotting them both. When an assistant asks if the two defeated students should be eliminated right away, the chief supervisor shakes his head. Until they actually press their emergency beacons for help, they are technically still in the game. Down in the brush, the rich kid boils with rage, this being the very first time in his life he has ever experienced such a humiliating defeat. Meanwhile, the arrogant student tries to rationalize the loss, convincing himself that if he hadn't underestimated the newcomer, he never would have lost so easily. In a bizarre twist of fate, their shared hatred for Suhong instantly turns them into best friends. They quickly apologize for their earlier insults toward each other, bonding over a mutual desire for revenge. Grabbing a couple of wooden shafts from the ground, they swear to hunt our boy down together. Suhong, meanwhile, has already moved deep into the thicket, sensing the heavy vibrations of a first-order giant-tusked boar. Within moments, a whole pack of the massive beasts crashes through the foliage toward him. He has run into so many groups of beasts by this point that he has completely lost count, but his pulse doesn't even spike. He slips into the center of the charging pack, unleashing his 9-ring rushing thunder fist. Sonic booms echo through the trees as his fists blur, shattering the tusks of any beast that dares to get close. Despite dropping the entire pack in seconds, Suhong frowns as he checks his system screen. He notices that the martial value points he gets for defeating ordinary monsters are significantly lower now compared to the massive hauls he used to get. Fighting regular beasts just isn't giving him the same return on investment anymore. Hoping to at least secure his passage into the camp, he thoroughly searches the carcasses for the entry tokens. Just like all the other lower-level monsters he encountered earlier, these beasts are completely empty. Suhong thinks that it looks like the instructors hid the real keys inside the higher-level, far more dangerous beasts. After half an hour of trekking deeper into the thicket, the endless waves of low-level beasts finally thin out, leaving the forest unnervingly quiet. The silence shatters the next moment when a high-tier, first-order shadow black tiger leaps from the shadows. Before the poor beast even has a chance to growl properly, Suhong blurs forward and unleashes his void-piercing finger. The laser-like strike punches right through the apex predator, knocking it down instantly. Suhong moves in to finish it off, thoroughly satisfied to see that his current skill level is more than enough to easily kill a high-tier, first-order beast without breaking a sweat. Rummaging through the carcass, his fingers finally brush against a cold metal surface which is an entrance token. As expected, the instructors hid the keys inside the high-tier monsters. Suhong pauses to analyze the layout of the mountain range. He notices a clear pattern. The deeper he goes, the higher the rank of the beasts becomes, but their actual quantity drops significantly. Even though these high-level beasts earn him way more points per kill, searching for them takes too much time because they are so rare to encounter. Making a quick tactical decision, he decides to head back toward the outskirts. He will go for quantity over quality, hunting down dense packs of lower-level monsters to farm points rapidly. With 5 hours remaining in the exam, his goal is clear. Accumulate as much martial value as possible to max out his mortal body progress. He sweeps through the outskirts like a hurricane, slaughtering every first-order beast in sight. Deep into his run, he encounters a resilient mid-tier beast. Testing his limits, Suhong launches a long-range punch to off-balance the creature, then rushes straight into its guard. Closing the distance, he unleashes a brutal close-range punch, relying entirely on his raw physical strength to shatter the beast's defenses and kill it. With his mortal body stat currently sitting at over 60%, his bare fists carry the weight of a truck. He checks his interface and sees he has amassed 254 martial value points, putting him just about 100 points away from maxing out his current physical constitution. With only 3 hours left on the exam clock, he pushes himself to find the last few targets. Suddenly, a piercing, unearthly shriek tears through the sky, echoing across the entire mountain range. Soo-hong looks up, his eyes widening as he tries to make out the massive silhouette blocking out the sun. He realizes he is looking at a legendary golden rox, a terrifying beast king. The massive creature flaps its wings high above the canopy, unleashing a top-tier, terrifying pressure. Soo-hong digs his heels into the dirt and braces himself against the absolute monstrosity of a beast king. Now, looking at the beast whose single flap of a wing creates a massive tornado, our boy gets a brutal reality check. In front of this creature, he is just an ant. The next moment, his eyes widen to see a blazing beam of light materialize right in front of the beast king. The person inside the golden light is Rank 7 Grandmaster Qin Tianli, who arrives to reprimand the beast, reminding it that he has borrowed this land for the camp, and the monster has zero right to be there. The beast is furious because it never agreed to lend the land to him, but the Grandmaster is fully prepared to beat it into submission to finalize the lease. The two forces clash, but the Grandmaster quickly gains the upper hand, raining a barrage of devastating attacks down on the creature before landing a final, shattering punch. He warns the Golden Rock Beast one last time, never to return to this territory. Its pride thoroughly bruised, the beast retreats, leaving behind a bitter promise of revenge. The Grandmaster then turns to the trainees below, casually introducing himself and telling them there is no need to panic. With the threat gone, he signals for the assessment to continue. Witnessing the formidable power of a Grandmaster leaves Soo-hong truly in awe. He stands there completely determined, locking in this supreme realm as his ultimate cultivation goal. Meanwhile, the Grandmaster descends to the ground, muttering haughtily to himself that the beast should have just agreed to lend the land in the first place instead of picking a fight and taking a beating. On the ground, his two assistants, Lin Zhu and Bai Mu, both rank 5 martial artists, immediately flatter his incredible display of power, but the Grandmaster isn't sold on the compliments. Getting straight to business, he orders them to follow him into the monitoring room. He wants to see which of the participants successfully withstood the terrifying pressure of the Golden Rock. Once inside the room, they scan the monitors and notice that many trainees completely collapsed under the Beast King's aura. The first one still standing is one of the prominent rich kids who was in the middle of hunting a pack of late-stage black tigers when the pressure hit. Upon learning that this boy is the son of the City Lord, a man who famously has 100 children, the Grandmaster comments that the City Lord finally managed to breed a decent one. 2 other wealthy heirs also withstand the pressure. One of them, a talented girl, relies on her spiritual telekinetic abilities to keep her composure. Beside them, several other prominent names from elite families who were already at the mid-stage of the Tier 2 martial art rank manage to stay completely conscious. When the Grandmaster asks if any students from Star City No. 1 school survived the ordeal, an assistant informs him that all 3 of their representatives are merely Tier 1 martial artists who only recently broke through. Hearing this, the Grandmaster instantly loses interest. Suddenly, their eyes catch a feed of our boy, who is casually back to fighting ferocious beasts as if the rock's pressure never even happened. The female assistant opens Soo-hong's file to read his details to the Grandmaster, but she freezes in her tracks, completely petrified by what she sees on the page. Her male counterpart snatches the document from her hands, but after reading Soo-hong's profile, he ends up with the exact same paralyzed reaction. Looking at the young assistants acting so shocked, the Grandmaster assumes they are just being unstable. He takes the file himself, and his jaw drops. He cannot believe his eyes. This boy possesses a perfect 100% affinity for every single element. It completely defies logic that a once-in-a-millennium talent like this could emerge from a tiny, insignificant place like Star City. But then his eyes squint at the rest of the file. He wonders why this absolute genius only has a blood chi of 123 and is still stuck in the early stage of Tier 1. The assistant quickly explains that it is because the boy is actively cultivating all 7 attributes simultaneously. Hearing this, the Grandmaster realizes that even an immortal would end up bottlenecked trying a crazy stunt like that. He grows furious at President Wu, wondering why on earth she didn't explain this basic cultivation trap to the kid. Right at that moment, a notification alerts them to the arrival of the first batch of trainees at the main gates. Naturally, the rich kids are the first to cross the finish line. After 6 hours, a steady stream of participants finally makes it into the camp. By the 7.5 hour, the Grandmaster considers ending the match early, figuring that any participant who hasn't arrived by now is simply too weak to bother with. However, he is secretly worried about Soo-hong, desperately hoping his golden egg hasn't been accidentally eliminated in the wild. Finally, Soo-hong walks through the gates, completely drenched in beast blood. He was so intensely immersed in his hunting spree that he entirely lost track of time. As he steps forward, the surrounding crowd murmurs in shock, commenting on the sheer ruthlessness of his blood-soaked appearance. The two punks he thrashed earlier glare at him from the crowd, silently vowing to deal with him the moment they are officially inside the camp. The wealthy elite kids also take notice of his dramatic, menacing arrival. A short while later, the 8-hour time limit officially expires, and anyone who hasn't reached the camp is immediately eliminated. An instructor gathers the survivors to explain the fundamental rules of the facility. He outlines the major training areas available to them: the gravity training room, the movement skill training room, the ferocious beast combat room, and the martial arts pavilion. The instructor explains that the martial arts pavilion is where trainees can exchange points for advanced movement skills, cultivation pills, and high-grade weapons, with the highest available tier reaching A rank. The students are ecstatic to hear this, but the instructor immediately drops the catch. They must earn contribution points to access any of these facilities. To get these points, they need to pass various training subjects with outstanding performances yielding extra bonuses. With the briefing over, the instructor orders everyone to head to their quarters, directing the injured students to follow him for medical treatment. After a short walk, everyone is assigned their rooms. Our boy lets out a sigh of relief when he discovers he has a single room all to himself. This is perfect. It means he can cultivate freely without worrying about anyone spying on his system secrets. Finally alone and undisturbed, he opens his status screen. His frantic hunting spree paid off, netting him a massive 353 martial arts value points. Without a second thought, he invests the points directly into his mortal body stat to max it out. The transformation hits his physical frame instantly. It looks and feels as though he is being burned alive from the inside out, his muscles tightly coiling and his bones hardening as his mortal body value finally reaches a flawless 100%. The system's effect works rapidly on his fatal acupoints, creating an immense heavy pressure in the air around him. With his constitution fully transformed, even his simplest, most casual physical attack will now carry devastating strength. As the transformation settles, he spots a brand new category manifesting on his screen: the strongest overload body. Realizing this is a spirit rank skill, he can't help but wonder how truly extraordinary it will become once he manages to evolve it further. He stands up, eager to test his upgraded physical limits. Looking around the room, his eyes land on a training weapon provided by the camp, a heavy rod made from a high-grade alloy. The moment he clenches his hand around it, the metal begins to crack and warp under his normal grip, even though the material is rated as a tough Grade C alloy. While Grade C alloys are normally expensive for an ordinary cultivator, he knows they are useless to him now if they bend this easily. He needs to earn contribution points as soon as possible to get his hands on a proper Grade A alloy spear. Remembering the instructor's manual, he recalls that trainees can earn extra points simply by wearing weighted training vests, making him wonder just how many hundreds of kilograms his body can now handle. Meanwhile, over at the camp warehouse, a crowd of trainees is practically worshipping Wang Tiantuo. The young lord is casually putting on a massive weighted vest, scoffing that it still feels a bit too light as he effortlessly jumps up and down. His companions loudly commend his brutal, barbarian-like strength. Up in the monitoring room, the Grandmaster and the instructors are watching the entire spectacle through the screens. A display like this is already expected from Wang Tiantuo, given his legendary barbarian god body. Looking away from the feed, the female assistant reminds the Grandmaster that they still need to intervene and stop Su-hong from wasting his potential by practicing all 7 attributes. The Grandmaster shakes his head, stating that he wants the boy to realize the mistake on his own and give up naturally. He explains that if they try to force the issue, a genius of his caliber will only double down out of stubborn pride. Shifting his focus, he turns to another assistant to ask about the preparations for the surprise night raid team. The assistant explains that they need a little more time, as assigning the right personnel to match each student's specific power level is a tricky process. Another instructor chuckles darkly, commenting on how brutally the night raid team will crush the rookies while they are relaxing after the grueling entrance exam. The Grandmaster nods, explicitly emphasizing that they must assign a high-ranking peak first-tier martial artist to raid Su-hong. He wants the raider to completely crush the boy so he can thoroughly explain the massive disadvantages of trying to cultivate every attribute at once. The assistant hesitates, protesting that a defeat that brutal might completely break the boy's martial heart. The Grandmaster just scoffs, replying that if Su-hong's resolve breaks this easily from a single setback, then he isn't worth their time anyway. On his way out, Su-hong overhears that Wang Tiantuo is heading straight for the gravity room. The warehouse quickly empties out as the other trainees rush to follow the young lord, giving our hero the perfect opportunity to test his limits and try on the weighted gear without any prying eyes. First, he locates his smart bracelet, a sleek device provided by the camp that tracks and calculates a trainee's contribution points in real time. Then, he turns his attention to the weighted jackets hanging on the racks. His eyes widen when he spots the absolute heaviest gear available, a massive vest weighing a staggering 10 tons, forged from a super dense heavy alloy. He pulls it off the rack to inspect it, analyzing the weight distribution. He quickly realizes that 10 tons is a bit too much for a baseline training session. If he puts it on now, he won't be able to handle it for long, and it will severely compromise his movement speed and combat form. Stepping down the line, he tests a 5-ton jacket instead. He slips it on and finds that he can still move around with relative ease. Fastening the straps, he wonders about Wang Tiantuo and his crew's choice of training gear. Given their high profiles, he figures they might already be equal to or even stronger than him in terms of raw physical strength. Eager to gauge the competition, he leaves the warehouse to watch their training and see what he can learn. Meanwhile, in the monitoring room, the people are already singing Wang Tiantuo's praises, labeling him a complete beast. On the screen, the young lord walks into the gravity room and immediately cranks the atmospheric pressure up to double gravity, all without taking off his 3,000 kilograms weighted vest. When Su-hong arrives at the observation deck, however, he is actually a bit disappointed. Seeing that Wang Tiantuo is only carrying 3,000 kilograms of extra weight, he realizes he may have vastly overestimated the barbarian youth's limits compared to his own overload body. He looks over at his Star City classmates, who are standing near the back of the crowd looking completely dejected. They feel utterly humbled and far behind the wealthy heirs, knowing it will be deeply humiliating if they go inside and start their own measly, low-weight routines next to a prodigy. Disregarding the hesitation of the others, Su-hong steps forward and walks straight toward the gravity room entrance. A wave of murmurs ripples through the onlookers, with many calling him a fool or completely shameless for trying to compete in the same space as Wang Tiantuo. Because Su-hong wears his loose school jacket right over his weighted gear, nobody can tell he is carrying a massive load. They blindly assume he is trying to show off and surpass Wang Tiantuo simply by walking into a high-gravity zone completely unburdened. Su-hong ignores the chatter and stands at the chamber threshold. A specialized facility like a gravity room is incredibly expensive to run, to the point where normal martial artists rarely ever get to see one, let alone train in it. He has zero intention of wasting this golden opportunity. He runs a quick calculation in his head. Wearing a 5-ton jacket under a standard double gravity setting means his body will effectively be crushed by a massive 10 tons of force. At his current level, handling that absolute weight would limit his training stamina to barely 10 minutes. Wanting to focus on endurance and form, he steps up to the control panel and sets the chamber's gravity machine to a more manageable 1.5x multiplier so he can train for an extended period. The moment the machine hums to life, the localized pressure spikes and the environment becomes incredibly heavy. Outside the glass, the crowd scoffs. Still believing he isn't wearing any weighted gear, they assume he is incredibly weak for only being able to handle a meager 1.5x gravity setting. Unbeknownst to the mocking onlookers, Su-hong is currently sitting cross-legged inside the chamber, actively cycling his elemental guidance techniques. Channeling spiritual energy under the crushing pressure of a gravity room is exponentially harder, but the immense strain forces his meridians to widen, drastically increasing his cultivation speed. 2 hours of grueling, intense hard work pass. Su-hong is sweating profusely, but the breakthrough is undeniable. Aside from his already advanced light and fire affinities, the rest of his elemental attributes successfully surge forward, unlocking their respective level 1 states. The sudden, massive synchronization of elements causes his raw blood chi to skyrocket, locking in at an impressive 130 points. Feeling the profound effects of the environment, Su-hong stretches his newly strengthened limbs. If the gravity room can give him results this good, he can't help but feel excited to see what kind of rewards the ferocious beast and movement rooms have in store for him. When he finally steps out of the chamber, his body is visibly exhausted and covered in sweat. The onlookers outside can't help but make another round of snide remarks, loudly wondering how a guy who wasn't even wearing a heavy jacket could be sweating that much from a mere 1.5x gravity session. Before the insults can continue, the arrogant crowd is instantly slapped in the face by reality. Overheated from the intense session, Su-hong calmly unzips and pulls off his outer school jacket to let his body breathe. The moment the fabric drops, the massive, dense metal plates of the 5-ton weighted jacket gleam under the hallway lights, completely visible to everyone in the corridor. The onlookers freeze, staring at the heavy alloy vest in absolute horror. People are still trying to downplay his achievement, blindly assuming he is only wearing a 500-kilo jacket. To them, it's not a big deal, just a decent showing. Obviously, the moment Wang Tiantuo is about to come out, everyone shifts their focus back to the glass, eager to worship the rich brats while treating our boy's training like it doesn't even matter. Wang Tiantuo finally steps out of the chamber, completely drenched in sweat. Lin Xinghe walks up and tells him he is heading to the movement skill training room next to practice his A-rank technique. This immediately catches our boy's attention. While his overload body gives him insane raw strength, his current liability is a complete lack of a high-level movement technique. Naturally, his next destination is the movement room. As usual, a crowd is already gathering to worship Lin Xinghe. The wealthy heir is inside the facility, practicing his A-rank technique, the flying swallow, startling cloud steps. The room's automated launchers are set to level 3, firing dozens of high-speed arrows across the floor. Lin Xingyi looks entirely relaxed and elegant, seemingly flying through the barrage as phantom flower patterns scatter around his feet with every step. Our boy really likes the vibe of this technique and decides to copy it. He starts, carefully tracking the footwork patterns. The onlookers immediately start mocking him again, laughing about how delusional he is to think he can learn Lin Xingyi's exclusive technique just by watching it. Su Hong completely ignores them. Closing his eyes, he begins practicing the mental projections right alongside the show-off. Thanks to his system's analytical breakdown, he rapidly masters the entry-level foundations of the form, officially unlocking his very first A-rank technique. Even though it feels a bit embarrassing to mimic Lin Xingyi's flamboyant, flashy movements, but he doesn't know the original technique precisely, leaving him with no choice but to follow the exact same flow. Snapping back to reality, Su Hong plans to slip away to the Ferocious Beast combat room to finally hunt some monsters and farm system values. Without realizing it, his body had automatically mirrored the intricate, flashy footwork in real life while he was cultivating it. The onlookers are genuinely blown away by his flawless execution, and someone even excitedly asks him to show them the move again. Thoroughly embarrassed by the attention his flashy movements caused, our boy bolts from the hallway, inwardly promising to never learn anything from Lin Xingyi in the future. As he walks away, he gets the distinct feeling that someone is watching him. It's the exact same duo from the forest, who are currently rushing ahead to set up an ambush right at the entrance of the Ferocious Beast combat room. When Su Hong arrives at the Beast Room lobby, he finds Yan and Wang Tiantuo engaged in a heated argument. Yan wants to compete to see who can rack up the most beast kills, but Wang Tiantuo dismisses the idea, arrogantly stating there is no competition since he is naturally superior. This is our boy's first time seeing a spirit reader's combat style in person, so he decides to pause and watch Yan in action before moving forward with his own plans. Looking at her live combat monitor, his eyes widen as he watches her float effortlessly in the air, a feat usually achieved only by high-level grandmasters. With a strange, blinding streak of light, she instantly slaughters 3 high-level, rank 1 black tigers. Another tiger attempts to ambush her from a blind spot, but utilizing her raw spirit power, she immediately binds and freezes the beast's body mid-air before executing it a second later. Su Hong is truly impressed by her tactical versatility. Those strange streaks of light are actually hyper-dense flying daggers controlled by her mind. Watching her walk through the air, use telekinesis, and completely control the movements of her enemies, he finally understands why spirit readers are considered so terrifyingly strong in combat. The next moment, everyone in the lobby is stunned as a massive, heavy greatsword suddenly materializes in her telekinetic grip, which she uses to violently cleave a giant snake monster in two. The weapon wasn't anywhere on her person before, meaning it must weigh tons and was pulled from a storage device. Lin Xingyi proudly explains to the crowd that this unique A-rank weapon manipulation technique is exclusive to the spirit rank. The crowd immediately turns their curious eyes toward Wang Tiantuo. If both Lin Xingyi and Yan possess A-rank skills, then the City Lord's son must have one too. Xingyi confidently confirms it, bragging that he has mastered a devastating A-rank offensive technique, leaving the surrounding crowd in absolute awe of their elite talent. Meanwhile, Su Hong is highly satisfied with his decision to come to the camp. Hearing that the top trainees are all packed with high-grade A-rank skills gives him plenty of targets to copy. On the monitors, Wang Tiantuo is currently obliterating beasts with a single punch, but since he is only using his raw physical strength and hiding his actual A-rank technique, our boy decides to patiently wait for a better opportunity to steal it. After witnessing the sheer utility of Yan's power, Su Hong's immediate new goal is to unlock the Spirit Reader class for himself. However, checking his system, he realizes he needs a baseline of 100 points in his spiritual stat to awaken it, and he currently only sits at 26.5. To bridge the gap and earn the remaining points, he turns away from the lobby monitors and walks straight into the active hunting zones of the Ferocious Beast combat room, ready to tear through the monsters inside. Su Hong steps straight into the hunting zone of the Ferocious Beast combat room, his mind locked onto farming those spiritual stats. Meanwhile, his two enemies from the forest are waiting for this exact moment. With the rest of the lobby completely distracted and busy admiring the rich kids, the duo figures they can finally enact their brutal revenge on our boy without any interference. However, they are stopped dead in their tracks, their bodies freezing in absolute horror at the sight in front of them. Instead of carefully pulling one monster at a time like any sane trainee, Su Hong has deliberately agitated the entire sector. The duo watches with their jaws dropped as our boy casually stands in the center of a clearing, calmly challenging dozens of high-level, ferocious beasts all at once. One of the ambushers trembles, questioning whether they should run and bring an instructor to save Su Hong before he gets eaten alive. His companion shakes his head, muttering that it is already too late for that. Inside the combat arena, Su Hong is fully prepared. The moment the first beast launches itself at his throat, he effortlessly steps back to dodge the snapping jaws. With a quick flick of his hand, he unleashes his void-piercing finger, killing 2 massive beasts on either side of him in a single breath. He then transitions directly into Shinhei's signature footwork, weaving through the chaotic swarm like a ghost and dropping monsters left and right. Outside the glass, the onlookers stand completely stunned. They watch the monitor in disbelief, knowing an early-stage Tier 1 martial artist shouldn't be able to pull off a stunt like this. Even mid-stage martial artists would have a massive problem being surrounded by dozens of high-level beasts. Suddenly, one of the 2 punks recognizes the flashy footwork. He questions whether Su-hong secretly comes from some prestigious elite family to know such a high-grade move. His friend gasps, guessing a far more terrifying reality. What if the guys actually learned the technique just by watching Lin Xinghei perform it a few minutes ago? The sheer scale of that genius leaves one of them completely ready to give up on the revenge plot. However, the other punk still can't forget the humiliation of being knees-bounced in the forest. His companion just sighs and tells him to look back at the screen before making any dumb decisions. They both stare at the monitor and go entirely speechless. While they were busy talking, Su-hong has already wiped out the entire room of high-level beasts. Down in the arena, our boy is not happy. He checks his system interface only to see a meager 81 points added to his total. It really is a drag. The stronger he gets, the harder it becomes to earn decent points from lower-ranked monsters. Before he can ponder it any further, the next swarm of beasts triggers and charges into the room. Su-hong doesn't waste any time. When a massive beast tries to tackle him head-on, he delivers a single, raw, physical punch. The shockwave from the impact explodes outward, killing a whole line of monsters behind the target in one shot. The remaining beasts in the room instantly freeze, their survival instincts kicking in as they stare at him in sheer terror. But Su-hong is already moving, ready to hunt every single one of them down to squeeze out more martial arts value points. He systematically clears the room, killing every last monster. Watching the flawless slaughter finally forces both of the plotting trainees to completely give up on their revenge dreams. They sheepishly step back into the main lobby just as the rest of the crowd is loudly discussing Wang Tiantuo and Yan's incredible combat accomplishments. When a nearby student asks the duo if they managed to get their revenge on the country bumpkin, they nervously sweat and lie through their teeth, claiming they totally handled it. Right at that moment, the doors to the elite chambers slide open. Both Yan and Wang Tiantuo walk out of the combat zone, immediately checking their smart bracelets to compare their contribution points. Wang Tiantuo sits at a massive 280 points, while Yan holds a close 270. The lobby erupts in amazement at the massive numbers. The regular trainees start comparing their own measly, single-digit points to these 2 absolute monsters, feeling completely depressed. Wang Tiantuo smirks, loudly addressing the crowd to boast that he earned an extra 100 points just from wearing his weighted jacket the entire time, while Yan casually adds that she grabbed a 50-point bonus from her gear as well. The crowd starts doing the math, realizing the gap is so wide that the rest of them can only fight for 4th place at best. Little do they know, the real monster is still inside the arena, quietly stacking up stats that will completely surpass the rich kids before the day is even over. Inside the ferocious beast combat room, the arena is completely painted in blood, the floor littered with the mangled corpses of dozens of beasts. Su-hong stands in the center of the carnage, sweating profusely and catching his breath after the relentless, exhausting hunt. Although he didn't quite reach his astronomical goal of earning 735 martial arts value points, his smart bracelet tells a different story. He looks down to see he has racked up a massive 700 contribution points. Satisfied with his haul, he decides to head straight to the martial arts pavilion to go shopping. The moment he steps inside the luxurious pavilion, his eyes scan the catalog of high-grade items. He looks at the list of A-rank techniques, but his jaw drops when he sees the prices. Every single one of them is wildly expensive, with the absolute cheapest starting at no less than 2,000 points. Shifting his strategy, he checks the cultivation pills instead. Finding the exchange rates far more reasonable, he decides to inquire about them. The salesgirl behind the counter looks him up and down, casually assuming this ordinary-looking Tier 1 martial artist doesn't have any real points to spend. Our boy ignores her dismissive look and asks about the spirit-focusing pills. The shopkeeper explains that the pill is highly potent, but there's a catch. It is only truly effective the very first time a martial artist consumes it. The higher the grade of the pill, the more explosive the permanent boost to one's spiritual power will be. Su-hong pulls up the inventory list, his eyes locking onto a top-tier option, a Tier 4 spirit-focusing pill priced at exactly 500 contribution points. He nods to himself and tells the salesgirl he'll take that one. The girl completely freaks out, her eyes widening as she sharply corrects him, snapping that the item costs 500 points, not 50. To shut her up, Su-hong calmly taps his smart bracelet, displaying his glowing balance of 700 points right in front of her face. Her arrogant demeanor flips in an instant. She immediately presents the high-grade pill inside a beautifully crafted golden box. With his main purchase secured, Su-hong uses his remaining balance to pick up a specialized weapon he desperately needs, a gray dual attribute spear forged specifically to channel both fire and lightning. An hour later, Su-hong is safely back in his single room with the door locked. Propped against the wall is his brand new, sleek dual attribute spear. He sits immediately, pulls up his internal system interface to check his day's progress. His blood chi and elemental guidance techniques have significantly improved across the board. Even better, his total martial value points have jumped to 490, a massive haul for a single day's work, considering it usually takes him an entire week of grueling training to bank that much back in Star City. Without wasting any time, he dumps his value points straight into his spiritual power stat. He watches the number climb, but he is still exactly 25.5 points away from unlocking the threshold required for true mental power. Su-hong cracks open the golden box, revealing the glowing Tier 4 spirit-focusing pill. He stares at it for a brief second before swallowing it whole. Feeling the pill instantly dissolve into a surge of pure, icy energy that rushes straight to his brain, he closes his eyes, fervently hoping this massive spiritual boost will bridge the remaining gap and finally awaken his second class as a feared spirit reader. As the Tier 4 spirit-focusing pill completely dissolves into his system, a profound warmth spreads straight to his brain. The exhausting tension in his nerves rapidly melts away and his mind becomes impossibly clear. Suddenly, his sensory perception explodes outward. He can feel the subtle shift of the air currents in the room and sense everything around him with absolute precision. Checking his interface, he sees his mental power shoot up by a full 24 points. His chest tightens as he looks at the final tally. He is exactly a half point away from the threshold required to activate the Spirit Reader class. He lets out a frustrated sigh, instantly regretting his timing. If he had known he would be this close, he would have hunted just one more beast before leaving the arena. But he quickly shakes it off. There is no use crying over spilled milk. His physical body is completely exhausted and desperately needs rest, so he resolves to close his eyes and farm that final measly half-point first thing tomorrow. Meanwhile, over at the Dark Camp warehouse, the elite night raid team gathers to discuss why they have been summoned. Among them is Bu Jinfeng, a total big shot at the prestigious martial arts university. He is already annoyed about being dragged out for a routine rookie hazing, but when he pulls up the file of his assigned target, his temper flares. He looks at his comrades, who have all been assigned to ambush the 3 legendary rich prodigies of the camp. Then he looks back at his own target, Su-hong, whose registered blood chi sits at a pathetic 123 points. Bu Jinfeng can't comprehend why he, one of the strongest martial artists on the entire raider squad, is being tasked with taking down such lower-level trash. Before the complaints can get any louder, Grandmaster walks into the warehouse, cutting off their discussion. Bu Jinfeng steps forward immediately, bluntly complaining that he has been assigned to attack a weak, early-stage, Tier 1 martial artist. The Grandmaster smiles faintly, correcting him by explaining that Su-hong's actual combat power is more than enough to rival a high-tier, peak Tier 1 martial artist. The revelation makes the other raiders pause, murmuring among themselves and wondering what kind of bizarre monster this Star City kid actually is. The Grandmaster then tightens the mood, emphasizing that the bulk of Su-hong's file is strictly classified. Jinfeng will just have to find out what makes him special once they clash. Jinfeng still feels incredibly insulted. He has zero desire to bully a Tier 1 rookie when his own blood chi sits at a massive 500 points, putting him right on the verge of breaking through to Tier 2. Seeing his hesitation, the Grandmaster leans in, dropping a chilling command. He doesn't want Jinfeng to just beat the boy. He wants him to thoroughly dismantle and cripple Su-hong's confidence in combat, forcing the kid to completely rethink his current life choices and cultivation path. Jinfeng blinks, taken aback by the sheer malice of the order. He starts to ask if the old man has some kind of personal grudge against the kid, but the words catch in his throat. The Grandmaster lets out a terrifying, wicked smile that sends a shiver down everyone's spine, making Jinfeng inwardly feel incredibly sorry for whatever nightmare is about to hit our boy. With the final orders delivered, the Grandmaster waves his hand, sending the raid team out into the dead of night to ambush their targets. The next moment, the entire camp erupts into pure chaos as the night raid team strikes. Trainees are ambushed completely out of nowhere, some caught in deeply embarrassing, indecent states as they are dragged out of bed. Su-hong's sharp senses alert him to the commotion outside a split second before danger arrives. The moment Jinfeng bursts through the door and launches a vicious attack, Su-hong blurs to the side, dodging the blow. The sheer force of the raider's strike shatters the wooden bed into splinters. Keeping his composure, Su-hong's mind races with a wild guess, assuming that Bu Jinfeng must be an infiltrator from the Myriad Races, a hostile faction known for hunting down human geniuses to weaken the nation's core strength. Gripping his brand new dual attribute spear, he readies himself to test the intruder's strength. Jinfeng, still completely underestimating his target, smirks as he readies his weapon to crush the rookie. However, looking closely at his opponent under the moonlight, Su-hong is taken aback to realize the attacker is actually a human, and a peak, high-tier, first-tier martial artist at that. Instead of complaining about the unfair matchup, a thrill goes through him, realizing this is the perfect opportunity to farm the massive martial arts value points he needs to unlock the Spirit Reader class. Without hesitation, Su Hong thrusts his spear straight toward Jin Feng. The raider's eyes widen in shock, because he cannot believe an early-stage martial artist is choosing to clash head-on instead of desperately trying to dodge. As their weapons meet, the sheer impact forces Jin Feng to realize that the Grandmaster was actually understating the boy's strength. Parrying the blow, his mind spins as he analyzes the exchange, wondering how an ordinary rookie like Su Hong could possibly possess this level of monstrous power. Meanwhile, Su Hong's confidence peaks. This isn't the first high-tier, first-order opponent he has faced today, and he has zero intention of losing. He drives his spear forward in another lightning-fast thrust. For a brief moment, Jin Feng is stunned, fully realizing our boy is an absolute freak of nature. Shaking off the shock, the university elite unleashes his full power, knowing that a true battle between warriors is determined by more than just raw strength. As a fire attribute martial artist, Jin Feng readies his weapon, confident that the rookie won't be able to handle a refined B-rank technique. Channeling his power, Jin Feng roars and unleashes his blazing slash technique, sending a torrent of flames cutting through the room. Our hero also reacts instantly. Analyzing the incoming attack, he notes that the raw power of this B-rank technique is significantly stronger than his own void-piercing finger. When their weapons clash a second time, the conflicting energies explode, causing the walls and floor around them to crack and crumble. Jin Feng recedes a step, finally understanding the terrifying reality of Su Hong's power. The kid just withstood a fully powered B-rank technique by simply channeling raw lightning through his weapon, completely devoid of any actual formal martial arts technique. Breathing heavily, Jin Feng scoffs at the boy, telling him he got lucky and noting that it is a good thing Su Hong doesn't actually know a real lightning spear technique, otherwise the fight might actually be trouble for him. Su Hong gives him a calm smile, readily admitting that he doesn't know any such technique. But before Jin Feng can even process the response, Su Hong grips his spear with both hands and heavily injects his fire attribute directly into the raging lightning current. The metal shaft hums violently as the twin elements spark and intertwine, leaving poor Jin Feng completely petrified as he stares at a theoretically impossible raw elemental fusion technique. Jin Feng is literally breaking out into a cold sweat. It is a universal law in their world that different elemental attributes cannot be fused together, because they naturally repel each other, often with catastrophic results. Yet right now, he is witnessing a legendary phenomenon unfolding before his very eyes, the perfect fusion of lightning and fire. Without giving his opponent any time to process the shock, Su Hong thrusts his spear forward, unleashing the full weight of the fused attributes. Jin Feng desperately tries to deflect the strike with his blazing slash, but his defense is completely overwhelmed. The raw, volatile mixture of fire and lightning erupting from the spear violently roasts the senior student, blasting him straight through the bedroom window and sending him crashing down to the courtyard outside. Watching his opponent fall, Su Hong checks his interface and sees that he has finally earned the remaining 7 martial arts value points he needed. It is more than enough to cross the threshold and officially break through into the Spirit Reader class. Just a few seconds prior, Grandmaster was casually walking towards Su Hong's room. He had already prepared the entire speech he was going to deliver to the boy, planning to use the rookie's inevitable defeat at the hands of Jin Feng to lecture him into giving up his foolish dream of cultivating all 7 attributes. He could not have been more wrong. The next moment, Jin Feng's smoking body is hurled out of the window, landing heavily right at the Grandmaster's feet. The message is crystal clear: our boy has won. Almost simultaneously, the other raiders who were sent to ambush the prominent rich kids are also thrown out of their respective quarters, crashing into the dirt. Wang Tiantuo looks outside and scoffs at the fallen attackers, loudly taunting the Grandmaster to send someone actually strong next time to challenge them. Looking around, Wang Tiantuo notices that there are 4 defeated attackers in total. He turns to Yan, pointing out that someone else in the camp must be incredibly strong to have taken down their assigned raider even faster than they did. Lin Xingqi, however, dismisses the thought, arrogantly suggesting that the 4th attacker was probably just a weakling compared to the ones they fought. Standing in the courtyard, the Grandmaster knows it is completely normal for these wealthy prodigies to win their bouts easily. What is not normal is Su Hong, who not only finished his fight before the elites, but managed to single-handedly crush a quasi-tier 2 warrior. Right then, an assistant comes sprinting toward the Grandmaster, looking completely freaked out. The Grandmaster initially assumes a student has died in the chaos, a casualty rate he doesn't particularly care about since danger is expected in the camp. But his casual demeanor shatters when the breathless assistant informs him that Su Hong has actively fused his elemental guidance techniques. At first, the Grandmaster's brain refuses to process the statement, but then a wave of pure panic hits him as he reiterates that such a feat is completely impossible. The assistant insists on the reality, explaining that he personally witnessed the fire and lightning fusion technique on the live monitor. He adds that if he doesn't believe him, he can ask Jin Feng himself. Still groaning on the ground, the defeated warrior weakly confirms his words. The Grandmaster instantly becomes incredibly hyped. He loudly recalls that the last time in history someone successfully fused two distinct attributes, it took that legendary figure a grueling 10 years of meditation to accomplish. Yet Su-hong has managed to do it in less than a month. Proudly, the Grandmaster declares that our boy is no longer just a monster. He is a falling star from the purple micro constellation, a true dragon born into their world. The female assistant listens to the praise, thoroughly confused. She asks the Grandmaster if a fusion technique is really so powerful that it allows a mere early-stage martial artist to easily defeat a quasi-tier 2 warrior. When the Grandmaster firmly confirms just how terrifyingly superior that combat power is, she looks up at him and questions why, if it is truly that formidable, they don't actively encourage all cultivators to master it. The Grandmaster answers that it's because the technique is not only insanely difficult, but it can also completely ruin a warrior's cultivation career. No one wants to stay stuck as a tier 1 warrior for their entire life, even if they do eventually succeed. But what Su-hong just did is a straight-up miracle. The Grandmaster hypes himself up, hoping that raising our boy right will reward them all, since the kid has the potential to defeat the emperors of the 10,000 races with a single move. His assistants quickly snap him out of his little fantasy, asking him to imagine what would happen if Su-hong actually manages to fuse all 7 techniques. The Grandmaster promises right then and there that he won't let our boy practice all 7 attributes at once, deciding it's better to keep him stuck trying to master a 3-attribute fusion before forcing a breakthrough. One of the assistants points out that he must have some kind of special constitution based on the brutal way he crushed Bu Jinfeng. The Grandmaster immediately shouts at him for not pointing out such an important detail sooner. Then, the whole group starts calculating our boy's actual power. He just crushed a warrior who possesses 4 times more blood chi than him, which makes the Grandmaster wonder if his physical constitution is something completely heaven-defying. Now, the Grandmaster really wants to test our boy's true power. For this exact purpose, he orders his minions to organize a proper match, pitting our boy directly against the 3 rich geniuses of the camp. While the Grandmaster is busy organizing his upcoming match, our hero is investing his hard-earned points into his spiritual stats to finally awaken the Spirit Reader class. As the new ability actively cultivates inside his body, it feels as though he is growing a bizarre third eye, or an extra limb. The sensation is completely unfamiliar and eerie, sending a strange shiver through his consciousness. When he is done cultivating, he immediately tests his newfound skills right in his bedroom. He focuses his mind on his bed, discovering he can effortlessly lift and move it through the air. He tries walking in the air himself, locking down the fundamentals of psychokinesis as he casually manipulates the objects around his room, suspending them mid-air with absolute ease. With the Spirit Reader class successfully unlocked, his next major goals are clear. He needs to copy Yan's A-rank spiritual technique and steal Wang Tiantuo's exclusive offensive technique. The next morning brings another brutal announcement for the exhausted trainees. A loud broadcast orders everyone to gather immediately, warning them that every single second they are late will result in a direct deduction of their contribution points. The trainees are deeply unhappy with how the camp operates, realizing the instructors are relentlessly testing them at every single turn. After a frantic scramble, everyone finally gathers in the main square, only to hear the instructor taunting them. The instructor mocks the crowd, noting he fully expected it to be a massive struggle for them to crawl out of bed after the surprise raid last night. One of the disgruntled trainees complains aloud, arguing that he lost his match last night simply because he wasn't even wearing underwear when the attacker burst in. The instructor scoffs and taunts the kid back, asking if an assassin from the myriad races would seriously pause and wait for him to put on his boxers first, making the surrounding crowd chuckle. However, the underlying point is crystal clear to everyone. A real battle will never wait for them to get ready. Despite the logic, it is only natural for the trainees to feel incredibly frustrated with test after test. To shift the mood, the instructor explains that today they are being given a proper chance to show off. Today is the comprehensive testing day, where their blood chi, combat power, spiritual strength, speed, and overall mastery of martial arts will all be rigorously evaluated. The instructor reveals that the top 10 students will be awarded different amounts of contribution points as a daily reward. Hearing this, the regular trainees immediately accept that the wealthy prodigies will automatically lock down the top 3 spots, leaving the rest of them to desperately hope for a position between 4th and 10th place. Meanwhile, Su-hong is already looking past the filler ranks, entirely focused on what kind of massive reward awaits the absolute first place position. After a short while, everyone is directed into the main warehouse, which has been temporarily converted into a state-of-the-art testing ground. Standing prominently in the center of the room is high-grade Tier 2 combat power monitor. Up in the observation deck, the Grandmaster looks down at Su-hong, quietly noting how perfectly our boy blends into the crowd without drawing unnecessary attention. A nearby trainee notices the direction of the old man's gaze and assumes he is merely keeping an eye on him, but in reality, Su-hong's newly awakened spiritual senses have already detected the Grandmaster's surveillance. The Grandmaster announces a last-minute addition to the rules. Whoever manages to secure the absolute highest score across every single testing category will receive an additional grand prize, a choice of any premium A-rank martial art or movement technique. The announcement instantly hypes up the entire room, though the regular trainees quickly deflate, knowing that realistically only one of the 3 elite rich kids stands a chance at claiming such a prize. The 3 wealthy heirs are equally fired up. Even in prestigious families, genuine A-rank techniques are incredibly rare and heavily restricted. Yan is visibly hyped, already planning which technique she wants to add to her arsenal, while Lin Xinghe aims for a skill that can complement his existing footwork and make him even faster. Meanwhile, the Grandmaster watches the monitors intently, eager to see Su Hong's true unbridled potential. To kick off the evaluation, the Grandmaster calls the 3 big shots to the front to take the test first. The crowd is deeply disappointed by the ordering. With the prodigies setting astronomical benchmarks right out of the gate, nobody will have the heart or the confidence to step up after them. Any normal student called forth will be completely crushed by the sheer point disparity. Sure enough, the instructor calls out the 4th participant, Su Hong. Our boy isn't surprised at all, having already predicted that the instructors would pull a stunt like this. The surrounding trainees immediately look at him with pity. Because he was the very last person to crawl into the camp during the entrance exam, the crowd universally assumes he is the weakest link in the entire roster. They start whispering their own theories, with one student guessing that the Grandmaster is doing this as a twisted motivational tactic, putting the absolute geniuses first and the weakest country bumpkin immediately after to shock the rest of the camp into working harder. The evaluation begins with the raw physical combat power test, followed immediately by the martial arts combat power test. Lin Xinghe is up first. He steps up to the massive combat monitor, a machine notorious for being incredibly strict with its ratings, and delivers a standard, unaugmented punch. The screen flashes, locking in a score of over 4,000 points. The onlookers erupt into chatter, amazed that he can secure such a massive number in raw physical strength, which is supposed to be his weakest attribute. Standing in the queue, Su Hong's eyes burn with anticipation. He has zero interest in the crowd's gossip. He is entirely focused on analyzing Lin Xinghe's movements, hoping the wealthy heir will unleash a high-level offensive martial art so he can copy it on the spot. Lin Xinghe doesn't disappoint. Stepping back, he channels his energy and unleashes his cloud-hidden gale punch. The monitor blares as the score skyrockets to 5,600 points, causing the crowd to buzz with excitement over the fact that his secondary skill is already this terrifying. Through his system interface, Su Hong instantly analyzes the move. It is a solid B-rank, wind element martial art, and by simply watching the execution, our boy acquires the skill effortlessly. He notes that activating this punch will instantly boost his own combat power by a clean 1,600 points. Yan steps up next, casually tossing a sarcastic comment to her companion about his average performance. Lin Xinghe just snorts and wishes her good luck. Since she is a specialized spirit reader, Yan's raw physical body is naturally weaker, but her standard punch still registers a highly respectable score of over 3,000 points. Then she readies herself for the martial arts portion. She then activates her exclusive A-rank spirit weapon condensation art, manifesting a dense aura around her attack. The moment the technique is deployed, Su Hong's system locks onto the spiritual frequencies, instantly copying and mastering the A-rank art for himself. Watching his interface update with the legendary skill, our boy flashes a hidden, highly satisfied smile. He is thoroughly glad he came to this training spachoning camp. At this rate, he can only imagine how many more overpowered techniques and secret arts he is going to steal before the evaluations are over. Yan uses her technique on the testing monitor and locks in almost 6,000 points, instantly edging out Lin Xinghe. The entire warehouse erupts into chatter about the explosive, raw power of a spirit reader. Everyone starts discussing how a spirit reader's mental power allows them to walk on air and manipulate objects mid-flight, making them incredibly dangerous and versatile in actual combat. With a sharp snap of her fingers, she effortlessly dispels her manifested energy weapon. At the exact same time, while the crowd is busy gossiping, our boy is secretly cultivating the newly copied technique inside his own mind. Sweat starts rolling down his forehead as he realizes the true depth of the art. The technique doesn't just condense simple weapons, but it can actually manifest other complex objects and even active, ferocious beasts. However, there is a massive downside. The more solid and dense the spiritual condensation is, the more drastically it drains the user's mental power. Realizing his current spiritual reserves aren't quite high enough to sustain the full form properly, he decides to shelf it for a moment, shifting his focus entirely to Wang Tiantuo as he really wants to see the barbarian youth's offensive martial arts. This specific test is massively advantageous for Wang Tiantuo because his barbarian god body naturally pushes his raw combat power to ridiculous heights. Standing in the queue, Su Hong is incredibly curious to see how his own overload body actually stacks up against the legendary barbarian god body. The moment Wang Tiantuo delivers his raw physical punch, the entire warehouse freezes. The monitor flashes an unbelievable number, revealing that his baseline physical strength alone is only 300 points shy of Lin Jinghe's overall combined score. Even the Grandmaster can't help but nod in approval, loudly praising his progress. Next comes the moment Su Hong has been anticipating for so long, the martial arts evaluation. Wang Tiantuo steps back, channeling an immense, terrifying aura into his fist as he readies his exclusive A-rank technique, the Bone Ghost Nether Fire Fist. Watching the complex energy pathways ignite across Wang Tiantuo's arm, Su Hong's system locks on, instantly copying and loading the entire skill into his database. Our boy can't help but celebrate the massive steal. If he had tried to purchase this exact A-rank technique from the martial arts pavilion, it would have cost him a staggering 2,800 contribution points. Wang Tiantuo drives his fist forward, striking the tester with an explosive boom. To everyone's absolute shock, the monitor blares a massive 7,534 points. A wild commotion erupts in the audience. Everyone is losing their minds over the fact that despite his blood, chi only being at 350 points, his combat power is barely 500 points away from matching a middle stage, tier 2 martial artist. Looking at the screen, the Grandmaster comments on how the City Lord has always dreamed of having a true Grandmaster among his children, and Wang Tiantuo is well on his way to fulfilling that dream. With those kind words ringing out, the heir confidently leaves the stage. Now, it is finally our boy's turn. The surrounding crowd immediately looks at him with pity, whispering about how utterly embarrassing it is for him to go right after those 3 absolute monsters. They expect his score to be a complete joke compared to the rich brats. Su Hong completely ignores the chatter and calmly walks up to the stage. As usual, the first phase evaluates raw physical strength only. Locking his eyes on the monitor, Su Hong's mind is completely set on grabbing that first place grand prize. He takes a deep breath, winds back, and punches the machine with every ounce of his unaugmented physical power. The impact rattles the warehouse floor, and the crowd goes dead silent. The monitor flashes, locking in a raw physical score of 6,551 points. Everyone stands frozen, openly questioning if the testing machine just broke. The jaw-dropping number instantly catches the attention of the 3 rich kids, whose smug expressions completely vanish. They absolutely did not expect a random country bumpkin to possess this level of raw physical force. While the crowd is still reeling, Su Hong calmly asks the Grandmaster if he can proceed to the martial arts phase. Meanwhile, his internal system finishes processing and fully loads the Bone Ghost Nether Fire Fist he just stole from Wang Tiantuo. This brutal, heavy-hitting technique actually suits his overload body perfectly. Up in the observation area, the Grandmaster asks his female assistant to guess how many points Su Hong will score with his martial technique. The assistant reminds him that despite the kid's undeniable physical talent, he doesn't come from a prestigious family, meaning he likely doesn't have access to any high-grade martial arts to boost his score. The Grandmaster just smiles, already anticipating that a freak like Su Hong definitely won't be using some low-level trash-tier skill. Within a matter of seconds, Su Hong completely masters the entry-level foundations of the Bone Ghost Nether Fire Fist to 100%. The aura suddenly erupting around his hand is instantly noticed by everyone in the room. The very next moment, Su Hong unleashes a devastating punch. The sheer force of the impact creates a blinding shockwave of light and pressure, forcing the onlookers to cover their eyes for a brief moment. When the dust finally settles, the entire warehouse gasps in horror. The monitor is blinking a mind-numbing score of over 9,000 points. Under normal circumstances, a standard A-rank technique maxes out right around the 9K threshold. The Grandmaster's assistant stares at her tablet in complete disbelief, muttering that the data must be garbage because there is no logical way a student with a registered blood key of only 123 points can output that much power. The 3 wealthy heirs are completely baffled. Lin Jinghe rapidly calculates the benchmarks in his head, noting that 7,000 points is the standard for an early stage Tier 2 warrior, 8,000 is for a middle stage Tier 2, and 9,000 points already firmly enters the realm of a high tier Tier 2 expert. Yan guesses that Su Hong must be intentionally hiding his true cultivation, arguing that his actual blood chi should be around 500 points to pull off a feat like that. To settle the argument, the instructors immediately force Su Hong to take a live blood chi scan, right then and there. The monitor beeps, displaying a meager 137 points. The entire warehouse erupts into pure chaos. Everyone starts wildly questioning reality, unable to comprehend how a literal early-stage martial artist with only 137 blood chi just outputted a combat score that scales way beyond a high-tier, middle-rank warrior. Seeing the commotion spiraling out of control, the Grandmaster steps up and shushes the crowd. He loudly announces that they are moving immediately to the actual combat test phase to settle the scores. He explains that the combat phase utilizes a challenge system. Trainees can designate and challenge any opponent on the floor. Once a student defeats all challengers and nobody dares to step up against them anymore, that person will officially be ranked number 1 and claim the coveted A-rank martial arts prize. Before the instructor can even finish calling for volunteers, Lin Xingyi steps forward out of the crowd and requesting to have Su Hong as his very first opponent. Lin Xingyi had already thoroughly strategized his approach for the match. Even though Su Hong's raw combat power was clearly superior, his registered blood chi was still significantly weaker. Relying on this disparity, Lin Xingyi planned to utilize his high-speed movement technique defensively, keeping his distance and avoiding direct clashes to slowly wear our boy down using his superior stamina. However, the Grandmaster completely shattered his tactical plans. Stepping onto the platform, the old man calmly announced that he would not accept a simple one-on-one request. Instead, all 3 elite prodigies would go up together to fight against Su Hong simultaneously. The unexpected decision instantly infuriated the 3 wealthy heirs. They assumed the Grandmaster was openly looking down on their capabilities by suggesting they needed to gang up on a single rookie, while simultaneously preparing to completely cripple Su Hong under the weight of a 3 versus 1 beatdown. The Grandmaster turned his gaze toward our dude, asking him directly if he had any personal objections to the arrangement. Su Hong calmly shook his head. His nonchalant attitude earned a sharp scoff from Lin Xingyi, who muttered that the country bumpkin was being entirely too cocky for his own good, reiterating that he alone could have given our boy a difficult time. The buzzer sounded, signaling the official start of the match, and the 3 prodigies immediately rushed forward. Lin Xingyi's strategy was to instantly blast his high-speed movement technique to its absolute limit. His plan was to wait until Su Hong was fully engaged with Wang Tiantuo and Yan, and then unleash a lethal ambush from a blind spot. He was completely confident that even with Su Hong's reaction speed, our boy wouldn't have enough time to track a high-speed flanking maneuver. What the wealthy heir failed to realize was that our boy was already vastly faster than him. Before Lin Xingyi could even complete his dash, a shadow blurred across his vision, and Su Hong materialized directly behind him. Fortunately for Lin Xingyi, his teammates screamed out a frantic warning just in the nick of time. At the absolute breath of a hair, he managed to pivot on his heel, narrowly dodging a devastating backhand strike as he rapidly stepped back. He warns his friends to watch out for the kid's freakish baseline speed. On the other side of the ring, Su Hong suddenly felt a bizarre, heavy pressure clamping down around his consciousness. It was Yan, deploying her specialized mental power to lock his joints and freeze his movements. It was his very first time experiencing direct spiritual combat. Feeling the invisible constraints tightening around his mind, he locked his eyes onto the girl and immediately decided to take her out of the equation first. As he began rushing toward them, his feet blurred into the unmistakable patterns of the flying swallow startling cloud steps. The sight left the elite trio in absolute disbelief. Lin Xingyi gaped openly, entirely unable to comprehend how this kid was suddenly executing his family's exclusive wind attribute movement technique when everyone had previously assumed Su Hong was a pure fire attribute user. Wang Tiantuo quickly guessed that the rookie must possess dual attributes, shouting for his teammates to immediately drop into a defensive formation. According to their rapid adjustment, Wang Tiantuo took the front line to block the direct assault, while Yan focused all of her remaining mental power to control him. Wang Tiantuo roared, rushing forward head-on while channeling the dark aura of his bone ghost Nether Fire Fist. Su Hong didn't slow down for a second, instantly readying his own hand with the exact same A-rank offensive technique. Right as the 2 heavy attacks were about to collide, Yan triggered her spiritual restraint, successfully freezing Su Hong's body mid-stride. The sudden paralysis became a massive headache for our boy, locking him in place just as Lin Xingyi closed the distance from the flank, aiming a vicious, wind-infused kick directly at his ribs. Watching the coordinated assault unfold from the observation deck, even the Grandmaster began to ponder if he had made a massive mistake by throwing Su Hong against all 3 geniuses at once. Yan's Spirit Reader abilities were incredibly oppressive. Historically, there were only 2 definitive ways to break free from a spiritual lock. Either through overwhelming raw physical power or by possessing a superior mental capacity. The Grandmaster knew Su Hong possessed insane physical strength, but he heavily doubted it would be enough to break the psychic chains of a trained spirit reader before the other 2 landed their finishing blows. His worried thoughts were cut short when he noticed a calm, confident smile spreading across our boy's face. The next moment, Su Hong unleashed the pure, unbridled brute force of his overload body. The explosive physical kinetic energy violently shattered the invisible psychic chains, forcibly dispersing Yan's mental power with such raw velocity that the backlash caused her to cough up a mouthful of blood. In the exact same split second, Su Hong reached out with blinding speed. His left hand clamped tightly around Lin Xingyi's incoming ankle, while his right palm slammed forward, perfectly catching Wang Tiantuo's fist mid-air. He had simultaneously blocked both physical finishers while completely overpowering a specialized spiritual assault. The onlookers stared at them with wide, terrified eyes, instantly dubbing Su Hong an absolute humanoid beast. But that initial clash was just the trailer for what was coming. Our boy tightened his grip on both boys' limbs, squeezing with such immense, crushing force that the two elite heirs winced and cried out in agonizing pain. Before they could even attempt to break his grip, Su-hong hoisted both of them into the air and violently slammed them face first into the concrete floor. Su-hong wasn't done yet. He dragged them backward across the stone, tossing them aside as they groaned on the floor, completely neutralized. Finishing the execution, Su-hong slowly turned his dark gaze toward Yan. Already trembling from the sheer speed at which her powerful companions had been utterly dismantled, she raised her hands and immediately surrendered without firing another shot. The crowd was completely paralyzed with shock, watching a single person effortlessly obliterate the camp's top 3 prodigies in a matter of seconds. Su-hong was no longer just a talented trainee, he was a certified monster. The Grandmaster stepped up, his voice echoing through the silent warehouse as he asked if anyone else wanted to step forward and challenge Su-hong. He waited for a moment, making it clear that if no one volunteered, our boy would be crowned the undisputed winner of the combat trials. Looking at the broken concrete and the groaning elites, absolutely nobody dared to raise their hand. Su-hong was officially declared the undisputed champion of the camp. Since the daily rewards for the 2nd through 10th positions were still active, the Grandmaster ordered the remaining trainees to resume the standard competition among themselves to fight for the remaining spots. Turning to our hero, the Grandmaster gestured for Su-hong to follow him back to the main pavilion to claim his grand prize, his choice of a premium A-rank technique. On their way to the vault, the Grandmaster glanced down at the teenager, curiously asking why he had gone to such great lengths to hide his terrifying combat power, while all the other trainees were busy flashing their skills and showing off. Su-hong gave a practical answer, explaining that coming from an ordinary background without a prominent family backing him, showing off too much early on would have simply painted a massive target on his back. The Grandmaster laughed heartily at his tactical smartness, but quickly corrected his mindset. He explained that he had intentionally arranged this 3-on-1 combat to show off Su-hong's true power to the higher-ups. In their world, as warriors grow stronger, they require massive amounts of rare cultivation resources, and those resources are strictly concentrated on recognized geniuses. By proving his absolute dominance, the Grandmaster could easily secure top-tier funding for him. He advised our boy never to hide his power inside the camp again, expressing his full, unyielding support. When they finally arrived inside the restricted vault of the martial arts pavilion, the Grandmaster ordered his assistants to bring forward the complete registry of their A-rank techniques. He told Su-hong he could choose absolutely anything he liked, offering to provide personal advice if our boy found the choices confusing. To narrow it down, the Grandmaster asked which high-level techniques he already knew. When Su-hong casually mentioned that he had already mastered Lin Xinghei's family technique, the Grandmaster froze in his tracks. His brain scrambled because that specific movement technique wasn't even in the camp's database, meaning Su-hong had learned and fully replicated it simply by watching Lin Xinghei use it a single time during the morning test. As Su-hong calmly confirmed the fact, the Grandmaster's expression turned entirely blank, staring at our boy in absolute silence as he fully realized the terrifying scale of the monster standing right in front of him. Meanwhile, the pavilion's receptionist watches from the side, silently wondering about the identity of this random kid whom the Grandmaster personally escorted into the restricted vault. Scanning the vast repository, the Grandmaster notices that Su-hong already possesses high-tier offensive and movement skills. He suggests our boy go for the Flame Cage technique, an A-rank control art that condenses fire spiritual energy to trap enemies. The old man explains the core mechanics of high-level combat. Standard offensive techniques usually require attaching spiritual energy directly to a weapon or the body, but control-type techniques require the user to project and manifest spiritual energy entirely outside the physical form. Under normal circumstances, even Tier 3 martial artists struggle to manage this, let alone a Tier 1 rookie, but Su-hong is obviously a special case. To prove his point, the Grandmaster demonstrates the technique right there. He ignites a small spark, instantly expanding it into a massive, burning cage of fire. He explains that even though a control art lacks raw, explosive striking strength, it is incredibly handy on the battlefield. Once the cage successfully traps the enemy, the user can easily condense a lethal arrow of flame right inside the enclosure, ensuring an instant, defenseless kill. The Grandmaster proudly claims that normal warriors can't attack, while simultaneously maintaining the cage, noting that he only achieved full mastery over this dual control once he reached Tier 3. However, our dude has his own plans. He politely refuses to choose the art, casually claiming that the technique seems a bit too complicated for him to handle right now. The Grandmaster smiles, thinking the kid is incredibly mature for listening to advice and knowing his limits despite being a certified genius. In reality, Su-hong isn't listening to the old man at all. He has already completely acquired and mastered the Flame Cage technique just by watching the Grandmaster demonstrate it once. He has zero intention of wasting his free prize choice on a skill he already stole for free. Shifting gears, the Grandmaster suggests going with a defensive option instead. He points out a premium, Earth attribute technique called thick earth armor, which condenses dense earth spiritual energy around the body into a massive shield. Su-hong finds this technique highly suitable, realizing it will perfectly complement his existing physical durability. He nods and locks it in as his official prize. With the choice finalized, the Grandmaster can't contain his curiosity any longer and asks our boy about his special physical constitution. Su-hong casually answers that he possesses the Overload body, secretly hoping the old man will freak out and shower him with every A-rank technique in the vault, knowing this specific physique is legendary. Unfortunately, the old man has never even heard of it. Realizing the name isn't recognized in this era, Su-hong quickly makes up an excuse, claiming he just came up with the name himself since the Constitution isn't recorded in standard textbooks. The old man easily accepts the explanation, commenting that whatever the name is, it is a truly great power, considering the rookie was able to effortlessly shrug off Wang Tiantuo's punches as a mere Tier 1 martial artist. Right at that moment, the Grandmaster's phone rings. It's his female assistant, who screams into the receiver in a total panic, informing him that she just checked the arena metrics and discovered Su-hong was actually wearing his weighted training jacket during the entire 3-on-1 match. The Grandmaster looks over at our boy, practically having a mini heart attack on the spot. Realizing the kid was casually dominating the camp's top 3 elites while actively nerfed by a massive weight restriction, the old man has to mentally console himself, reminding his racing brain that standard logic simply does not apply to a freak of nature like Su-hong. He immediately orders our boy to take the jacket off, promising him that he will have plenty of incredible rewards soon enough, once they challenge the other elite camps. Su-hong complies and unzips the vest. A nearby pavilion worker steps forward, asking him to hand the jacket over so she can cart it back to the warehouse. Our boy politely warns her that it's extremely heavy, but the woman ignores him, confidently stating that as a manager of the pavilion, she handles heavy gear all the time. The next second, her eyes almost pop out of their sockets. The moment Su-hong lets go, the sheer, concentrated mass of the vest proves way too heavy for her to hold, crashing straight out of her hands and literally fracturing the concrete floor. The Grandmaster stares at the cracked tiles, completely unable to believe his eyes. The kid just systematically dismantled 3 top-tier prodigies while casually carrying 5 tons of extra dead weight. This revelation completely changes his plans. The Grandmaster grins, telling Su-hong that he has a highly specific, legendary technique in mind for him now. He explains that this specific art belongs to a powerful Grandmaster, based in Yang City, who also utilizes a spear, just like Su-hong. It is an A-rank Thunder Spear technique, and its raw destructive power sits among the absolute strongest even within the A-rank tier. The plan is simple. The Grandmaster is going to take Su-hong straight to Yang City tomorrow morning. Our boy will publicly challenge that Grandmaster's top disciple, and once he wins, the legendary spear technique will be his. In reality, the Grandmaster simply wants to use Su-hong to aggressively show off, since the Yang City faction leader Jiang has been mocking Star City's talent pool for years. They schedule the departure for the first thing the next morning, and Su-hong readily agrees. When our boy returns to his residential quarters, he finds the room completely spotless, beautifully cleaned by the camp's staff. Skipping any rest, he immediately sits down to cultivate, eager to master the 3 powerhouse skills he scored today: the flame cage, the spirit weapon condensation art, and the thick earth armor. He resolves to break through the entry-level proficiency of all 3 techniques before the sun rises. Meanwhile, Grandmaster Qin has already dialed Zhang's number, smugly mocking him over the phone to get ready for tomorrow's sudden challenge. Zhang laughs it off, completely confident in his own star disciple Lin Chunfeng, who possesses the rare, wooden spirit body and has already officially broken through to Tier 2. Not only that, but the Yang City prodigy has also fully mastered the intricate control technique, Wood Prison, to the point of effortlessly projecting energy outside his physical body in just 2 days. Right at that moment, inside the Yang City training hall, the prodigy in question is practicing hard to manifest his Wood Prison. Vibrant green branches violently erupt from his torso, but the moment he tries to hold the structure stable, the energy flickers and vanishes into thin air. He fails the execution yet again. Zhang steps forward, consoling his frustrated student and telling him that mastering external manifestation takes time. The student, Lin Chunfeng, grits his teeth and promises his master that he will fully lock down the technique within a month. Hearing this, Zhang smirks and brags back into the phone to Qin, mocking how his disciple is a true prodigy who can master a high-level control technique in weeks, whereas it took Jiang himself 3 grueling months during his youth. He snorts, telling Qin that a true genius like Lin Chunfeng shouldn't be bothered by a random challenger from a backwater camp. Grandmaster Qin grows absolutely furious hearing the blatant disrespect, but before the old man can even shout a retort, Jiang casually hangs up the phone. Turning back to his disciple, Zhang chuckles and tells Lin Chunfeng to go easy on whatever student Grandmaster Qin brings tomorrow. He instructs him to intentionally make the match look like a close, evenly fought battle, showing a bit of mercy just to save the old man's face. Lin Chunfeng confidently assures his master that he can easily rely on his acting skills to fake a tight match. By the afternoon of the following day, Su-hong and the Grandmaster touch down in Yang City. It is our boy's very first time experiencing the thrill of supersonic flight alongside the Grandmaster. The moment they arrive at the venue, Jang struts out to greet them, immediately scanning our boy to check his cultivation level. When he realizes Su-hong is just an early-stage, Tier 1 martial artist, he lets out the exact same dismissive, underestimating reaction as everyone else. He sighs, realizing that his disciple will have to put in some serious effort into his acting performance just to make a fight against a Tier 1 rookie look close. Noticing the smug looks, Grandmaster Chin smiles coldly, bluntly requesting that they skip the pleasantries and start the match immediately since he and his student need to leave early for dinner. The two Grandmasters lead the way down into Yang City's exclusive underground combat arena. The surrounding is packed with local trainees, all of them anxious to see what kind of top-tier genius Star City has managed to produce this time around. Stepping into the center of the ring, Jiang steps up to the microphone, formally introducing Grandmaster Chin before shifting the spotlight to Su-hong. The moment Jiang announces that Su-hong is merely an early-stage Tier 1 martial artist, a loud protest erupts from the Yang City students. The crowd murmurs in disbelief, openly muttering that it is completely stupid and insulting for a Tier 1 rookie to show up and challenge a confirmed Tier 2 expert. Even Lin Chunfeng stands in his corner looking thoroughly confused, wondering how on earth he is supposed to hold back enough to make a match against this weakling look like a close, evenly fought battle. Jiang, completely blinded by his absolute confidence in his own student's superior rank, decides to raise the stakes right then and there to humiliate his old rival. He loudly announces that if Lin Chunfeng wins, Grandmaster Chin must personally teach the Yang City prodigy a premium A-rank skill. But if Su-hong somehow pulls off a miracle and wins, Jiang promises to not only hand over the coveted Thunder Spear technique, but he will throw in an additional, unrestricted A-rank technique from his own private vault. Grandmaster Chin smirks, dryly thanking Jiang for being such a nice, generous guy. Inwardly, Jiang just chuckles, completely convinced there is mathematically zero chance for a Tier 1 country bumpkin to overcome a Tier 2 genius. With the massive bets locked in, both opponents step up to the center line to face each other. Jiang glances at his disciple, subtly reminding Lin Chunfeng to tightly control his strength so he doesn't accidentally kill the Star City representative. Lin Chunfeng nods. He genuinely seems like a decent person, and his main concern right now is figuring out how to execute his attack safely without permanently injuring Su-hong. As they square off, Lin Chunfeng notices that Su-hong has entered the ring completely empty-handed, missing his trademark weapon. When he asks about it, Su-hong calmly answers that he doesn't need a spear for this specific fight, and Lin Chunfeng's expression tightens, instantly assuming our boy is just being incredibly cocky and arrogant. In reality, Su-hong is just being practical. The only spear technique he currently knows is a basic C-rank skill, which would be completely useless in a high-tier battle. Instead, he plans to rely entirely on his newly acquired arsenal of A-rank techniques, none of which require a weapon. The starting buzzer blares, and Lin Chunfeng rushes forward, burning with curiosity to see what the kid can actually do. He throws a swift opening strike, but Su-hong blurs out of existence, effortlessly dodging the blow by deploying his flying swallow startling cloud steps. The smooth evasion keeps Lin Chunfeng's interest piqued, realizing the rookie has somehow mastered a high-level, wind attribute movement skill. But as he pivots to chase him down, Lin Chunfeng confidently claims that standard movement techniques are entirely useless against him. Lin Chunfeng uses Wood Prison, unleashing his signature move. Thick, volatile wooden barks instantly erupt from the arena floor, violently clinging to Su-hong's legs and locking him in place. Feeling the restraints tighten, Su-hong mentally acknowledges that mastering external energy manifestation is incredibly difficult, proving that this Yang City kid is a genuine genius. Then, Su-hong flexes his muscles, using the raw brute force of his overload body to violently shatter the binding wood. He notes that breaking free was entirely too easy. However, those few seconds of restriction are more than enough for an expert. Lin Chunfeng utilizes the distraction to blur through the blind spots, instantly appearing directly behind our boy's back. But Su-hong is already waiting for him, throwing a devastating blind punch backward before his opponent can even position his stance. Sensing the sheer, terrifying velocity of the incoming fist, Lin Chunfeng realizes with horror that the punch will land long before his own strike can connect. He rapidly triggers his A-rank defensive art, Wood Evasion. A massive, dense wooden shield manifests in front of him, but the raw kinetic force behind Su-hong's punch is completely absurd. The impact shatters the solid wood barrier like cheap glass, sending Lin Chunfeng flying backward through the air. Skidding across the concrete, the Yang City prodigy can't help but inwardly marvel at our boy's terrifying physical strength. The onlookers stand completely stunned, unable to comprehend how a certified A-rank defensive technique deployed by a Tier 2 expert was just shattered by the raw physical force of a Tier 1 rookie. Grandmaster Chin takes the golden opportunity to loudly mock his rival, laughing at the look on his face. Zhang retorts that his star student can't be defeated by mere brainless brute force, telling Chin to keep watching. Back on the arena floor, Su-hong doesn't give his opponent a single breath to recover. He closes the distance instantly, driving a heavy kick toward Lin Chunfeng's chest, but his foot passes straight through a hollow afterimage. Lin Chunfeng materializes several meters away, as he claims that he also happens to know a premium A-rank movement technique. He looks at our boy and politely asks him to surrender, openly admitting that our boy is incredibly strong and has already forced him to push his limits. He even confesses that if they were the exact same cultivation rank, he wouldn't be able to match Su-hong at all. Su-hong doesn't answer with words. Instead, he snaps his fingers, instantly triggering the flame cage technique right around Lin Chunfeng's position. A towering, roaring cylinder of fire violently seals the Yang City prodigy inside. Lin Chunfeng is initially shocked to see a complete beginner projecting an A-rank control-type art so effortlessly, but he quickly keeps his composure. He assumes that since Su-hong is a lower-rank martial artist, his spiritual reserves will be heavily limited. Our boy won't be able to maintain a complex external control cage for very long. Lin Chunfeng decides he just needs to stay defensive and wait for the cage to naturally collapse from energy exhaustion. Up in the observation lounge, both grandmasters jump out of their seats in absolute shock. Zhang is in complete disbelief, unable to comprehend how a Tier 1 rookie is successfully maintaining an advanced external control technique. But then he notices the equally shocked expression plastered across Grandmaster Qin's face. Zhang's confusion deepens. He can't understand why the old man looks completely horrified when he is supposed to be the very mentor who taught Su-hong the skill. Before Qin can even attempt to explain the absurdity of the situation, Zhang's mind processes another terrifying realization. Su-hong was just using a high-level wind attribute movement technique a second ago, and now he is casually deploying a massive fire attribute control art. The younger Grandmaster tries to calm his racing heart, rationalizing that since our boy is splitting his focus across multiple elements, the complex flame cage will inevitably collapse even faster. But Grandmaster Qin points directly at the them and telling Zhang to look closer. Hovering right in the center of Su-hong's right palm is a brilliant blazing arrow of pure white fire. Zhang's jaw drops. Our boy isn't just holding the barrier, he is actively condensing a highly lethal offensive strike, while simultaneously maintaining a massive external control cage, a dual-tasking feat of spiritual control that even Tier 3 peak warriors struggle to execute. Su-hong rushes straight through the perimeter of the flaming cage, driving his white-hot fist directly toward Lin Chunfeng. The Yang City prodigy frantically deploys his wood evasion shield one more time to block the incoming strike, but the elemental superiority of the white flame completely incinerates the barrier upon contact. Su-hong's punch drives clean through the defense, burying itself hard straight into Lin Chunfeng's gut. The sheer, unbridled kinetic shockwave ripples through the prodigy's torso, causing him to instantly cough up a spray of blood as he is violently blasted across the arena floor. Even after taking a devastating punch directly to his gut, Lin Chunfeng groans in intense pain but somehow manages to stay on his feet. He immediately activates his innate healing power to stitch his internal injuries back together, relying on the unique cellular regeneration of his wooden spirit body. Realizing a single strike isn't going to be enough to keep the prodigy down, Su-hong rushes forward again, ready to rain down a relentless barrage of punches before Lin Chunfeng's body hits its recovery limit. Lin Chunfeng, however, remains stubborn. He confidently tells Su-hong that a lower-level martial artist still can't bridge the gap to defeat him, openly challenging our boy to see what gives out first. The spiritual stability of the flame cage, or the endless regeneration of the wooden spirit body, knowing his current spiritual energy reserves will indeed burn out if he keeps multitasking the barrier. Su-hong voluntarily dispels the roaring cage himself. A smug smile crosses Lin Chunfeng's face, instantly assuming the Star City rookie is finally running on empty and giving up. But the next split second, his smug expression turns into absolute horror. Su-hong stands with his palm extended, gathering a wildly volatile, swirling mass of energy. He casually remarks to his opponent that he didn't originally plan on using this particular move today since it drains a massive amount of his concentration. Lin Chunfeng feels the air turn electric and senses the sheer lethality of the impending attack. Panicking, he manifests a massive, multi-layered defensive wall of thick, reinforced wood. It is completely useless against our boy's raw elemental fusion. The chaotic mixture of fire and lightning tears through the dense wooden barriers like wet tissue paper, shattering the defense instantly and blasting Lin Chunfeng clear across the stadium floor. The underground arena erupts into a massive commotion. The onlookers can clearly feel the residual shockwaves, whispering in shock because the raw density of that single blast easily scales to the level of a refined S-rank technique. Up in the VIP box, a completely shell-shocked Grandmaster Jiang turns to Grandmaster Qin, openly admitting that this Star City kid is a terrifying monster. Grandmaster Qin thoroughly enjoys the look of pure despair on his rival's face. He leans back, casually rubbing salt in the wound by telling Jiang that our boy actually mastered that impossible fusion technique in less than a single month. He proudly adds that Su-hong possesses a flawless 100% affinity across all elements. hearing that a Tier 1 rookie is successfully cultivating all 7 attributes completely roasts the younger Grandmaster's brain. With the match officially over, it is finally time for Jang to pay up and fulfill his heavy end of the wager. Since it was already decided that he would teach his exclusive Thunder Spear technique to the victor, Grandmaster Chin steps up and demands the bonus prize, asking Jang to also hand over his personal Palm Lightning technique. Feeling completely exhausted and financially ruined, Jang can only sigh and nod in agreement. Later that afternoon, the group moves into Jang's private, reinforced training hall. Looking at Su-hong, Grandmaster Jang can't help but feel incredibly nervous. He has never encountered a freak of nature like this kid in his entire martial arts career. Shaking off the tension, he begins breaking down the fundamentals of his signature spear style, introducing it as the 9 sky-breaking spears. He demonstrates the stance, explaining that the high-level art consists of 9 precise movements divided into 3 distinct forms. Every 3 moves combine to create one complete form, and each consecutive form is vastly more destructive and exponentially harder to learn than the last. Under normal circumstances, Jang notes he would never dream of teaching this style to any warrior below Tier 4. However, believing a genius like Su-hong can at least grasp the basic mechanics of the opening stance, he tells our boy to watch his movements closely. Jang grips his heavy spear and unleashes the first form, River Flip, causing the air in the room to warp. Without pausing, he transitions smoothly into the second form, Sea Overturn, creating a roaring vortex of wind intertwined with brilliant, jagged arcs of white lightning. Standing on the sidelines, Su-hong can clearly sense the immense pressure of the technique. The localized elemental storm makes him feel as though he is standing in a tiny, fragile boat in the middle of a raging ocean, where a single stray bolt of lightning could easily cripple him on the spot. Finally, Jang drives his weapon forward into the devastating third form, Skybreaker, unleashing a massive, terrifying tornado that rattles the reinforced walls of the training facility. It is obvious to Su-hong that the Grandmaster is heavily holding back his true destructive power to keep the entire room from collapsing, but the residual aftershocks alone are enough to make the air vibrate. Su-hong realizes that compared to this level of peak Grandmaster power, his current self is still as small as an ant, but a deep confidence burns in his chest. He knows with absolute certainty that this catastrophic power will belong to him in the near future. With the demonstration finished, Jang tells our boy to start practicing the basic forms on his own, and instructs him to ask any questions if he runs into a wall. Su-hong politely thanks the senior expert for his time, but Jang just brushes it off, grumbling that it's simply a condition of a lost bet. He then drops a massive hint, explaining that once Su-hong successfully masters the first form of the spear art, they will move on to the second reward, the Palm Lightning. He reveals that the raw explosive output of the Palm Lightning is actually vastly superior to the 9 sky-breaking spears. Su-hong is completely taken aback to hear that the jaw-dropping spear style is actually the weaker of the 2 skills. The revelation instantly fires him up, making him incredibly determined to master the entry-level forms of the spear technique as fast humanly possible. Jang leaves the training room shortly after, noting that he has some camp business to sort out with Grandmaster Chin while our boy practices the baseline movements. He promises to return in a few hours to monitor his progress and see how much the rookie can struggle through on day 1. After just 1 hour, Grandmaster Jang returns to the training hall, already rehearsing a speech to motivate Su-hong. He plans to tell our boy that mastering the first form normally takes a month or 2, so there is absolutely no need to rush. However, the words die in his throat. He freezes in absolute shock, staring at Su-hong, who is already flawlessly executing the complete sequence of the first form. Noticing the Grandmaster's arrival, Su-hong halts his stance, casually wiping his brow before asking if they can move on to the Palm Lightning technique since he has already fully grasped the basic mechanics of the spear style. Jang stands there, completely overwhelmed by the sheer, unbridled talent of the monster standing right in front of him. A short while later, Grandmaster Chin finds Jang pacing outside the training room and immediately asks if he has finished teaching the boy. Jang confirms that he has already taught him both techniques, but Grandmaster Chin immediately scowls. He begins complaining loudly, assuming Jang is just slacking off because Palm Lightning is an incredibly complex, dangerous technique that a rookie can't possibly practice without strict, constant supervision. But his rant is cut short the moment he looks inside. Through the door, he sees Su-hong effortlessly manifesting crackling arcs of high-density lightning directly across his palms. Both Grandmasters stand completely paralyzed, utterly shocked by the speed of Su-hong's comprehension. Even a certified genius like Jiang required 3 grueling months of dedicated meditation just to master the baseline foundations of Palm Lightning. Jang can only guess that with this level of reality-bending potential, Su-hong is a definitive lock to reach the legendary 9th rank in the future. Thoroughly satisfied, Grandmaster Chin decides to treat his old rival to a good meal for old time's sake, scheduling their departure back to Star City for the next morning. That night, resting in his assigned private room, Su-hong pulls up his interface to review his haul. He has accumulated a massive 230 points after systematically crushing all of his opponents today. His blood chi is currently his lowest stat, so he realizes he needs to heavily upgrade his physical baseline alongside his newly acquired techniques. However, his current martial arts value points aren't quite enough to trigger a massive realm breakthrough. He needs a lot more points to force his cultivation upward, but since absolutely nobody in the student ranks is willing to spar with him anymore, he realizes he has no choice but to head back to the beast combat rooms to farm corpses once they return to Star City. Meanwhile, back in the VIP lounge, the two grandmasters are getting incredibly drunk. Jiang is deeply unhappy, loudly reminding Qin for the 100th time that the old fox completely tricked him into parting with two of his absolute best A-rank techniques. Right then, a camp assistant rushes into the room, informing Grandmaster Zhang that the scheduled high-tier night raid is set to trigger tonight. Still thoroughly intoxicated, Zhang lazily orders them to proceed with the original plan. The assistant nods and relays the authority to begin the night raid across the dormitories. Suddenly, Grandmaster Qin blinks, his drunken brain registering a massive detail. He reminds Zhang that Su Hong is currently sleeping in those exact same guest dorms. Hearing this, Zhang instantly snaps out of his stupor. He panics and barks at the assistant to postpone the drill immediately, but the assistant weakly reveals it is already too late. The raid has officially begun. Over at the Yang City Elite dorms, the raider squad is led by two brothers, Bu Jinglong and Bu Jinfeng. Bu Jinfeng is the exact same raider who tried to ambush Su Hong back at the Star City camp, only to be effortlessly counter-blitzed. His older brother, Bu Jinglong, is a powerhouse Tier 2 high-level martial artist who has been specifically tasked with ambushing the local prodigy, Lin Chunfeng. But Jinglong is incredibly haughty, openly complaining that being ordered to ambush lower-level students is basically glorified child abuse. Bu Jinfeng immediately winces, warning his older brother not to underestimate the rookies, recalling how he himself was utterly humiliated by a Star City monster. Bu Jinglong just snorts, loudly taunting his younger brother for losing to a country bumpkin. Embarrassed but frantic, Bu Jinfeng reminds him to at least watch out for the insane healing properties of the wooden spirit body. Ignoring the warning, Bu Jinglong barks the command, and the masked night raiders storm the building. Instantly, the dorms erupt into absolute chaos. Trainees are dragged into the hallways, screaming and shouting in fury. One particularly indecent student loudly accuses the raiders of having zero martial ethics for attacking him before he could even pull up his pants. Inside his guest room, Su Hong hears the commotion and steps out into the hallway to investigate. His movement instantly catches the eye of a passing raider. The masked attacker assumes Su Hong is just a stray Yang City trainee and lunges forward, aiming a heavy punch at his chest. Su Hong reacts instantly, slipping the strike and delivering a lightning-fast counterpunch that sends the raider crashing into the wall. Our boy scowls, thoroughly grouchy about being aggressively attacked when he isn't even a student registered at this camp. But then a beautifully evil idea suddenly sparks in his mind. If he changes into the official uniform of the Night Raiders and wears the standard mask, he can seamlessly pretend to be one of them. That way, he can systematically beat down every single elite student in the building and farm a massive mountain of martial arts value points. He mentally notes that it isn't exactly a nice or honorable method, but he quickly shrugs it off. Who cares? A moment later, further down the hall, a masked raider is locked in a fierce struggle against an indecently dressed student. Su Hong, now fully disguised in a raider uniform and mask, struts up, pretending to step in to help his comrade. Instead of hitting the student, Su Hong drives his fist straight into the raider's jaw, knocking him out cold. The local trainee stands there completely paralyzed with shock, utterly unable to comprehend why a raider just aggressively took down another raider, before Su Hong blurs past him, leaving him behind in the dust. Our boy is completely hyped. He sprints through the corridors, intentionally seeking out the highest level warriors in the building to maximize his martial value points. A few minutes later, he hits the first floor like a hurricane, aggressively fighting and dropping every single person in his path. The sheer speed of the beatdowns leaves the other official raiders completely bewildered, frantically wondering if there is a rogue traitor operating among their ranks. After completely clearing out the first floor, Su Hong turns his attention to the second floor. He repeats the exact same process, executing flawless takedowns that cause his system interface to continuously flash with massive drops of martial value points. With the lower floors completely cleared, it is time to hit the third and final floor. Up on the third floor, Lin Chunfeng is desperately holding his ground against the powerful Bu Jinglong. The high-tier raider's offensive power is immense, but Lin Chunfeng's wooden spirit body continuously heals his injuries mid-combat, allowing him to leverage his Tier 2 status to maintain a highly competitive defense. When Su Hong steps onto the floor, he finds a large group of official raiders casually standing around the perimeter, eating popcorn and watching the main event since they have already cleared the rest of the local students. Noticing another comrade walking up, they wave him over, casually inviting him to join the circle and watch the show. Su Hong steps into the center of the room, and a brilliant, crackling aura of white lightning instantly ignites around his fist. The surrounding raiders freeze, completely stunned by the sudden, terrifying spike in elemental energy, frantically questioning what this guy is actually intending to do. Launching himself straight into the crowd of raiders, Su-hong loudly declares that he has zero interest in watching Lin Chunfeng's match, because he is already putting himself directly into action. Within seconds, his fists blur, knocking out the small fry raiders one by one like bowling pins. The sudden violence forces both Lin Chunfeng and Bu Jinglong to completely halt their duel. They step back, staring in absolute jaw-dropping shock at the masked madman clearing the room. Knocking down the final official raider, Su-hong casually cracks his knuckles. He locks his eyes onto the remaining two fighters, pointing a finger at both of them, and bluntly commands both opponents to step up and attack him at the exact same time. Bu Jinglong turns his full attention toward our hero, completely ready to deal with this masked interloper before resuming his duel with Lin Chunfeng. He arrogantly declares that night raiders are strictly supposed to focus on their assigned targets, so he is going to make an example to teach this rule breaker a harsh lesson. He winds back his fist, channeling his high-tier energy into a devastating Vajra fist, but our dude easily catches and blocks the strike with his raw physical power. Shocked by the impact, Bu Jinglong yanks his arm back, his mind racing as he wonders what kind of monstrous strength this random raider possesses. Seeing Su-hong charging right back at them, Bu Jinglong swallows his pride, realizing he has no choice but to yell at Lin Chunfeng to team up with him. Lin Chunfeng agrees immediately, instantly sprouting his wood prison branches to bind the intruder, but Su-hong dodges the roots with absolute ease. Taking advantage of the distraction, Bu Jinglong launches a heavy ambush from behind, but Su-hong instantly protects himself by manifesting the thick earth armor. The dense elemental shield absorbs the blow perfectly, leaving his opponent completely stunned that a rookie can block a tier 2 high-level strike so effortlessly. The next moment, Su-hong vanishes entirely from their sight. Before Bu Jinglong can even process the speed, a brutal counterstrike hits him, causing him to spit blood. Without slowing down, Su-hong rushes straight toward Lin Chunfeng, crashing down from above to neutralize the Yang City prodigy in a single, definitive shot. With both elites defeated, the system interface flashes, rewarding Su-hong with 140 martial value points from Bu Jinglong and 75 points from Lin Chunfeng. By the time the Chaotic Night Raid officially wraps up, our boy's brilliant disguise has earned him a massive grand total of 2,400 points. The next morning, the Yang City training camp is a pitiful sight, with almost every single elite student sporting heavy bandages and injuries from the night before. Grandmaster Zhang is absolutely infuriated, fiercely accusing Su-hong of intentionally creating a massive mess in his dormitories. Grandmaster Qin loudly rescues his student from the blame. As they fly back toward their home province, Grandmaster Qin reviews Su-hong's status, noting that our boy still lacks any proper martial arts for the wood, metal, and water attributes. With a knowing smirk, the old fox decides to take a detour to visit a few old friends across the region who can fill those gaps. Over the next 10 days, they systematically tour 3 other prominent training camps. Using the exact same high-stakes challenge method, Su-hong defeats each camp's top disciple, smoothly winning 3 brand new A-rank cultivation techniques as his victory rewards. Returning to his own room in the Star City camp dorms, Su-hong immediately sits down to cultivate his massive new arsenal. He reviews his newly acquired arts, the metal attribute Golden Sharpness, the wood attribute Vine Strangle, and the water attribute Water Dragon technique. Channeling his energy through his flawless affinity, he rapidly trains until he reaches entry-level proficiency in each individual skill. He marvels at his own luck, never imagining he would acquire this many legendary A-rank martial arts in such a short amount of time. Checking his interface, he notices his total balance sits at almost 3,000 martial value points. Desperate to boost his baseline strength, he decides to dump the massive horde directly into his blood chi. As the points convert, his entire body burns with an intense, raging heat as pure power floods his veins. When the energy stabilizes, his blood chi skyrockets to a massive 450 points, leaving him just 50 points shy of a tier 2 breakthrough. With 100 martial value points left over, he wonders whether he should invest them into his spiritual stats or his overload body. He decides to dump all of them into his overload body, but is completely taken aback to see that the heavy investment only increases its grade by a meager 0.1 tier. Realizing the physical constitution requires an astronomical amount of energy to upgrade, he gets up from his bed, planning to head straight to the camp's beast room to farm the remaining points needed for his tier 2 breakthrough. The moment he opens his door, he finds Grandmaster Qin standing right on his doorstep. The old man tells him to pack his bags. He is personally taking him to a specialized camp where he can learn high-tier healing martial arts. Their destination is the prestigious Hangzhou Training Camp, the capital hub of the Jiangnan province. This camp is fundamentally different from the others, operating on a brutal field training motto. Trainees are dropped into the dangerous Master Mountains and forced to survive for 7 full days without a single scrap of supplies. Furthermore, camp contribution points can only be earned by successfully hunting and killing beasts of an equal or higher tier. Since the region is the capital province, the mountain trails are absolutely packed with top-tier geniuses. Meeting them at the staging area, the commander of the facility, Grandmaster Wang Qinshan, gives the formal order to start the trial. A massive wave of trainees instantly rushes toward the mountain trails. Once the students leave, Grandmaster Wang looks over at Su-hong and openly expresses his doubts, pointing out that the boy hasn't even broken through to the second rank yet. Grandmaster Qin remains completely unfazed, confidently dropping his usual high-stakes bet. If Su-hong wins the entire trial, Wang Qinshan must personally teach him a premium healing art. Otherwise, Qin will hand over an A-rank art to whichever Hangzhou student beats our boy. Wang scoffs, asking how Qin can even afford to gamble away arts when he barely has enough resources to teach half of his own good students. Shifting his gaze to the peaks, Wang comments that this trial will be a great opportunity for Su-hong to witness the terrifying reality of the myriad races demon cult, who are rumored to have infiltrated the dense forest. He guesses that any cultists operating in the outer zones will just be small fry remnants around Tier 2 or Tier 3. Hearing this casual breakdown, Grandmaster Qin's face pales. He can't believe Wang is knowingly sending his own students into what could easily become a literal death trap. Wang counters the worry coldly, reasoning that the war against the demon cult is inherently cruel and bloody, meaning it is far better for his students to go through these extreme hardships early on to become truly strong. Realizing the Hangzhou commander is dead set on this brutal method, Grandmaster Qin completely abandons any hope of Su-hong securing the first place position. At this point, simply surviving the forest and coming out alive is more than enough. Meanwhile, deep in the mountain forest, our boy is successfully beating and slashing his way through a wave of ferocious beasts. He smoothly sequences his newly mastered arts, unleashing the 9 sky-breaking spears to execute a massive monster before shifting into a blinding golden sharpness ripple to tear through another charging beast. Shortly after, he systematically defeats a gargantuan python that attempts to ambush and strangle him from the trees using its massive coils. Winning victory after victory, the grueling days pass by in a blur of combat. During a particularly dark night, he encounters another high-tier monster, which he instantly obliterates by channeling a roaring water dragon strike. Finally deciding to call it a night, Su-hong sits down inside a secluded cave to analyze his recent combat metrics. The raw power of these authentic A-rank martial arts is undeniably great, but maintaining them continuously drains his spiritual energy at a rapid pace. He decides it's time to use his accumulated martial value points to force his definitive breakthrough to Tier 2. He dumps the remaining points directly into his blood chi and immediately drops into a deep, meditative cultivation mode, his aura flaring in the shadows. Meanwhile, just outside the cave entrance, a high-ranking member of the demon cult quietly approaches. He is checking up on their hidden sacrifice site, which happens to be the exact same cave our boy has occupied. The cultist skims the perimeter, entirely confident that no human authorities will ever find this secret location deep in the treacherous forest. However, looking down at the fresh beast corpse littered around the entrance, his eyes narrow. He instantly understands that an intruder is currently inside. He haughtily shouts into the darkness, threatening Su-hong to come out immediately or else he will skin him and eat him alive. The cultist stands outside the cave entrance, tracking the fresh tracks and muttering aloud that whoever is inside must be a Tier 2 or Tier 3 martial artist, considering they easily slaughtered a Tier 1 Crimson Flame Black Tiger. He confidently coaxes Su-hong to stop hiding and step outside if he wants to avoid a slow, excruciatingly painful death. Inside the shadows, Su-hong remains hidden, rapidly analyzing the situation. Hearing the stranger dismiss Tier 2 and Tier 3 combatants as easy prey makes him suspect that this intruder is likely a Tier 4 warrior. Even though Su-hong has just successfully forced his cultivation breakthrough to Tier 2, he knows it would be reckless to blindly engage a high-tier opponent in an enclosed space without assessing the danger first, so he decides to escape the cave structure. To clear a path, he channels his spiritual energy and launches a roaring water dragon straight toward the entrance. But the cultist is completely prepared. With a cold sneer, he draws his blade and effortlessly slashes the elemental dragon in half. Based on the residual energy of the impact, the cultist immediately concludes that his opponent is merely an early-stage, Tier 2 novice. Su-hong uses the distraction to bolt from the cave, but the cultist moves like lightning, aggressively riding his momentum forward to cut off the escape route. The cultist grins crazily, noting that while our boy is clearly a talented genius, he takes a twisted thrill in hunting and murdering lucky prodigies. However, his steps falter when he realizes Su-hong has completely stopped running and is now standing his ground. From that brief exchange of power, our boy has already accurately concluded that this attacker is only at the early stage of Tier 3. Furthermore, the jagged tattoo running down the man's neck confirms his true identity. He is a member of the Celestial Race faction within the notorious Myriad Races demon cult. In reality, the members of the demon cult are completely human by birth, but because they harbor a deep, toxic hatred for humanity and completely disregard their own heritage, they proudly declare themselves part of the Myriad Races. They are absolute scum who launch brutal terrorist attacks and capture innocent humans to use as live sacrifices in exchange for rewards from alien factions. Feeling the raw power of his overload body burning in his veins, Su-hong readies his weapon, completely prepared to clean this world of such trash. The cultist raises his sword, channeling's blinding, scorching energy as he instantly unleashes his Sky Sun Slash straight at our boy. Since this is Su-hong's very first time fighting a genuine Tier 3 warrior, he decides to abandon any hesitation and go completely all out from the absolute beginning. He counters the incoming strike by embedding lightning directly into his spear, unleashing a modified river flip that violently shatters and scatters the cultist's technique. The sudden collision turns the tide instantly, leaving Su-hong holding the definitive upper hand. The cultist is utterly shocked to see an inferior, lower-ranked warrior completely overpower his stance. His mind scrambles as he wildly questions how a kid who was just using a water attribute dragon a moment ago is suddenly deploying high-density lightning. Growing desperate, he crazily unleashes a rapid flurry of sword strikes, trying to find any leverage to regain control of the match. But in a flash, Su-hong blurs completely out of his line of sight, utilizing his movement technique to materialize directly behind the cultist's back. He thrusts his spear forward, triggering the sea overturn form as a catastrophic storm of thunder cracks and explodes around the target. Realizing his raw combat power is completely inferior, the cultist panics and immediately attempts to retreat. But Su-hong has no intention of letting him escape. He triggers his wood attribute, Vine Strangle, manifesting vine that wraps tightly around the cultist's legs. As the lightning storm closes in, the cultist desperately burns his life essence to execute a strange, taboo movement technique, barely managing to slip free from the lethal blast. Leaping back, the cultist's body begins to warp and mutate as he curses Su-hong for being an absolute monster. To his absolute bad luck, Su-hong blurs forward again, completely ready to finish him off before the transformation can stabilize. As the cultist begins turning into a grotesque, ghostly creature, he screams about showing our boy the absolute might of a celestial being. Su-hong drives his spear forward, calmly remarking that turning oneself into a literal ghostly monster simply proves that everyone in the demon cult is completely insane. The mutating cultist reaches out, confidently grabbing the blade of Su-hong's spear with his bare, hardened claws. He believes that once his celestial formation fully awakens, Su-hong will be completely done for, allowing him to successfully protect the nearby ritual site. But his eyes widen in absolute horror when our dude has instantly restricted his entire mutated body inside a scorching flame cage. Without wasting a single microsecond, Su-hong channels his raw kinetic force into a devastating void-piercing finger thrust, driving the attack straight through the monster's core. The sheer, unbridled destructive energy obliterates the cultist from the inside out, leaving nothing behind but the crumbling ashes of his ghost body. As the ashes dissolve, Su-hong's system interface flashes, rewarding him with a massive 212 martial value points for the kill. He is questioning why killing a single cultist grants him such a massive drop of points, whereas he was previously getting a measly total after slaughtering dozens of high-tier ferocious beasts. He quickly remembers the cultist's mention of a ritual site and correctly guesses that the scum must have captured innocent humans nearby for a live sacrifice. Recognizing the urgency, he immediately pulls out his phone to inform the Grandmaster about the situation. Back at the Hangzhou training camp headquarters, Grandmaster Qin receives the urgent transmission regarding the encounter with the demon cult. He immediately alerts his counterpart, urging him to send a squad to save the captured humans. Grandmaster Wang, however, listens to the report nonchalantly, calmly informing Qin that they don't need to worry because these specific low-level cultists usually end up sacrificing their own fanatical members to build portals, a cold fact that prompts a disgusted remark from Qin about the inherently demonic nature of the cult. As they monitor the situation, Wang notices that Grandmaster Qin doesn't seem worried about Su-hong's safety at all. In reality, Qin has absolute, unyielding confidence in our boy, especially now that he knows the kid has single-handedly slaughtered a Tier 3 cultist. Wang Gax, however, just scoffs, completely under the assumption that the Star City rookie is simply exaggerating his battle achievements to look good. 3 full days pass after that violent encounter. During this time, Su-hong relentlessly hunts through the deeper mountain zones, killing numerous Tier 3 ferocious beasts, but the grinding only yields a total of 800 martial value points. Burning with an insatiable desire to find another cultist to score another massive drop of points, he actively searches the ravines, but he doesn't encounter a single hidden camp during these days. Right at that moment, his sharp senses suddenly tingle as a massive wave of danger locks onto his position. Out of the canopy, a young female cultist commenting that our boy possesses an incredibly sharp perception for a rookie, but she notes that since he has stumbled into their restricted territory, he needs to die immediately. With a wave of her hand, she sends a lethal barrage of hidden spiritual blades flying straight toward his throat. Looking at the incoming projectiles, he is absolutely glad that he finally ran into another cultist. In his eyes, those highly coveted martial value points are basically walking straight toward him in the form of this girl. Su-hong immediately blocks the incoming projectile barrage by summoning a roaring water dragon, creating a heavy, swirling stream of water that neutralizes the spiritual blades around them. Before the female cultist can even recover her stance, Su-hong lunges forward and tightly grabs her weapon mid-strike. With a sudden, explosive flex of his muscles, he pulls her entire body toward him. The girl's eyes widen in absolute shock as she realizes just how much monstrous physical power this teenager holds. Our boy is already waiting for her. Channeling the dark energy of the bone, Ghost Nether Fire Fist, he drives a brutal punch straight into her gut, sending her crashing onto the forest floor. Before she can even crawl away, Su-hong pins her down, placing the sharp tip of his spear directly against her throat. He bluntly demands to know the exact coordinates of their local outpost. Left with absolutely no choice and staring death in the face, she confesses that their sacrificial outpost is located exactly 10 kilometers north of their current position, begging him to spare her life. Su-hong doesn't budge, coldly asking how many Tier 3 martial artists are currently stationed there with her. She answers that there are 3 Tier 3 combatants, including herself, along with 3 Tier 2 martial artists. Su-hong rapidly calculates the numbers in his head. Since he has already personally slaughtered 2 Tier 3 cultists so far, that means there is only 1 left at the base. He immediately plans to raid the entire outpost by himself, eager to harvest all the remaining cultists to earn well over 1,000 martial value points in one clean sweep. With a haul that massive, even his mental power can definitively force a breakthrough to Tier 2. As he is busy planning his massive harvest, the girl suddenly sneers as her body begins to rapidly warp and mutate into her celestial race form. She crazily exclaims that her doubled combat power after morphing will be more than enough to tear him to pieces, but the arrogant sentence dies right in her throat. A devastating arc of the Thunder Spear technique cleanly pierces straight through her chest. The system flashes, rewarding him with 208 martial value points. As usual, our dude only cares about his points. The next day, Su-hong successfully reaches the coordinates of the Myriad Races Demon Cult's sacrificial outpost. Deep in a clearing, a group of high-level cultists has completely surrounded a squad of trapped Hangzhou trainees. Someone had originally lied to these trainees, telling them that there would only be a few scattered opponents at the outpost, scaling to Tier 2 martial artists at best. But the reality is completely upside down. The cultists leading this ambush are all fully refined Tier 3 experts. The bloodthirsty cult commander barks a ruthless order to his minions, telling them to slaughter every single human trainee on the spot. The surrounding cultists rush forward, practically salivating at the chance to butcher these Tier 2 human prodigies. They are completely bloodthirsty, ready to execute them in the most cruel, agonizing ways possible to sacrifice their fresh blood to their dark lord. Realizing they are completely cornered, the human trainees brace themselves, resolving that at the absolute worst, they need to take down as many of these scum as possible before they die. Up in the hidden observation deck, this entire grim scene is being closely witnessed by both Grandmasters. Grandmaster Qin looks on, visibly impressed by how courageously these Hangzhou training camp prodigies are holding their ground against superior Tier 3 martial artists, despite the extreme danger. Grandmaster Wang is fully planning to personally intervene the exact second things go south, but for now, he wants to let the trainees test their limits. Noticing Su-hong rapidly advancing toward the center of the clearing, Grandmaster Qin comments that they won't even need to step in, because our boy is already on his way to save his students' asses. Wang, as usual, completely disbelieves the claim, scoffing and telling Qin that he must still be incredibly drunk from the night before. Down in the clearing, the situation hits a boiling point. One of the top Hangzhou prodigies steps forward, shouting at his companions that he will personally sacrifice himself to block the vanguard and buy them enough time to retreat. However, his loyal companions refuse to abandon him, tightly holding their formation. One of the Tier 3 cultists leaps through the air, driving his blade down while loudly declaring that none of these human brats are going anywhere alive. But before anyone can even process what is happening, a massive crack of thunder echoes through the valley, and the leaping cultist is violently thrown across the clearing, a crackling thunder spear embedded straight through his torso. The remaining cultists halt their advance, spinning around frantically to see who just crashed their party. Su-hong steps out, his eyes burning as a brilliant, catastrophic aura of palm lightning ignites around his fists. Without giving them a single second to react, he drives his lightning-infused fist straight into the nearest 2 enemies, crushing their defenses and vaporizing their chests instantly. One by one, he systematically blitzes through the ranks, murdering the Tier 3 cultists with ruthless, high-density palm lightning strikes. Clearing the immediate perimeter, he turns back to the frozen Hangzhou trainees, casually asking if any of them are injured. The trainees just stare at him, completely mesmerized by the terrifying, effortless feat of a random teenager solo ranking and wiping out multiple Tier 3 warriors like they are nothing. Grandmaster Wang stands completely confused, wildly questioning why Grandmaster Qin requested for this kid to be taught high-tier healing martial arts, which strictly requires a refined wood element affinity when the rookie is currently unleashing a catastrophic high-tier thunder affinity. Meanwhile, Grandmaster Qin is equally shocked, but for an entirely different reason. He remembers that Su-hong was supposed to be a mere early-stage Tier 1 novice just a few weeks ago. Now, the kid has not only reached high-ranking combat power in a matter of days, but he has suddenly forced a flawless breakthrough to Tier 2. The sheer velocity of his cultivation speed is absolutely ridiculous. Back at the outpost, Su-hong orders the stunned trainees to immediately escape the area while he holds the line to clean up the rest of the facility. The trainees don't argue, rapidly fleeing into the forest. The moment they clear the area, Su-hong lets out a brief swear word directed at the female cultist who had lied to him about the base's numbers. But a sinister grin rapidly breaks across his face. He realizes that no matter how many extra Tier 3 martial artists are currently hiding in this camp, they are all ultimately his to harvest. Every single one of these scum is worth a massive, guaranteed drop of 200 martial value points. One fanatical cultist rushes toward him from the side, aiming a lethal strike to take our boy's head off, but within a fraction of a second, Su-hong drives a direct punch straight through his skull, dropping him instantly, activating his palm lightning. To its absolute maximum output, Su-hong stands in the center of the bloody camp, loudly daring anyone else to step forward and challenge him. Looking at the corpses of their companions, the remaining cultists are now genuinely terrified, backing away in pure horror. While our boy is busy systematically massacring the cultist ranks, a terrifying, heavy pressure suddenly descends from above. A powerful figure acting as the lord of this sacrificial outpost slowly ascends the stairs, staring down at the battlefield while commenting on how Su-hong is a truly magnificent monster. The cult lord inhales deeply, thrilled by the thick smell of blood hanging in the air, loudly proclaiming that the myriad races demon cult will never forget this glorious mass sacrifice. As Su-hong executes another scrambling cultist, his sharp eyes notice a bizarre phenomenon. The fresh blood from the fallen bodies is actively pulling away from the dirt, flowing upward through the air like red streams. He looks up and sees all of the airborne blood gathering and condensing directly into the floating cult lord, marking the exact point where the dark sacrifices are being offered. After absorbing the massive torrent of blood, the cult lord's body violently transforms. Large, wings erupt from his shoulder blades as his power skyrockets. He looks down arrogantly, declaring himself a true noble of the celestial race, and haughtily commands our boy to drop to his knees and beg for mercy. Su-hong, on the other hand, is absolutely ecstatic to see this transformation. He reasons that if killing a mere human who morphed into a fake celestial grants him a massive mountain of points, then he can only imagine how many of martial value points he is going to harvest after slaughtering a genuine, fully transformed celestial noble. The celestial noble is absolutely infuriated that a mere human rookie dares to look up at him with such calm defiance. In a swift, blinding blur, he teleports directly behind Su-hong, coldly sentencing him to death. The speed of the maneuver is so astronomical that our boy doesn't even have a split second to dodge. He takes a direct, explosive thunder attack head-on, barely managing to cross his arms and block the impact. The Celestial's eyes narrow in surprise. He certainly wasn't expecting to encounter a member of the human younger generation strong enough to survive a direct blow from him. Su-hong, on the other hand, grunts as he shakes out his numb arms, internally realizing just how terrifyingly potent a genuine celestial being's baseline strength truly is. Sensing future trouble, the Celestial resolves to eliminate this human brat immediately before he can grow into a proper threat. However, because his current vessel is failing, his borrowed body begins to physically collapse under the sheer pressure of his energy before he can even properly ascend to Tier 4. Still, he thrusts his fist forward, confidently assuming that his top-tier Tier 3 peak strength is more than enough to finish the job. Su-hong, however, has already pieced together the clues from the monster's arrogant words. He realizes this man isn't a trueborn celestial, but rather a high-ranking celestial soul, possessing a human cultist's body, temporarily capping his power at Tier 3. That's why Su-hong unleashes his rushing Thunder Fist, stepping forward to meet the challenge head-on. The two powerhouses exchange a relentless barrage of fists, their collision shaking the entire clearing. Meanwhile, Grandmaster Qin watches with absolute fascination, deeply impressed that the Celestial's raw combat power is actually great enough to trade blows evenly with our boy. Grandmaster Wang, however, is completely baffled by the scene. He is unable to comprehend the fact that Su-hong isn't just surviving against a cosmic entity, but is actively gaining the upper hand. Su-hong completely overwhelms the Celestial with a series of heavy, violent punches, finally finding a gap to land a devastating blow. Staggering back, the blonde Celestial is frantically demanding to know what kind of monstrous physical constitution our boy possesses. Even back in his primordial battlefield of heaven, his physical strength had never been defeated by anyone in the same realm. Though he can exert his true, original power through this fragile human vessel, he still finds it completely unbelievable that he is being physically pushed back and dominated by a mere human. Su-hong casually taunts the entity by asking if he's tired already. In reality, ever since awakening his legendary overload body, this is the first time Su-hong has actually been forced to think about how to kill an opponent without holding anything back. The golden-haired entity mutters under his breath, hissing that if he were only at his full potential, our boy would be nothing but dust. Su-hong nonchalantly shrugs, reminding him that if he were at his full potential, it would at least make this boring battle somewhat satisfactory for him. Insulted to his very core by a mere human bumpkin, the winged man turns completely infuriated. He roars, instantly activating his innate bloodline technique, the Divine Treasury. Suddenly, dozens of glowing golden ripples open up in the air behind him, and massive, radiant golden spears begin to slide out of the portals. Su-hong is thoroughly fascinated by the bizarre martial art, noting with a tinge of disappointment that his system won't let him learn it. In truth, this is the exclusive, innate bloodline legacy of the higher celestial race. Only those possessing pure, unadulterated blood can ever cast it, proving that the soul occupying this human body must be an absolute big shot in the upper realms. Seeing the legendary Divine Treasury manifest, Grandmaster Wang panics, instantly urging Grandmaster Qin to cut the trial short and step in to save Su-hong's life. However, Qin remains completely relaxed, expressing absolute confidence in his student because he knows the kid hasn't even revealed his true ultimate move yet. Wang is taken back when he is informed that Su-hong holds a mythical, 100% affinity across 7 distinct elemental attributes, and has even mastered the impossible art of perfectly fusing thunder and fire together. Down in the crater, the Celestial Lord flings his hand downward, preparing to obliterate our boy under a rain of dozens of divine spears. He refuses to let this human prodigy grow any further, viewing him as a catastrophic future threat to his entire race. As the massive wave of golden spears comes riding down like a tempest, Su-hong tightens his grip on his weapon. The third stance of the 9 sky-breaking spears ignites across his knuckles. He unleashes the heaven-breaking thunder spear, launching a colossal vortex of concentrated lightning that rides straight towards his enemy, piercing clean through the possessed body. The Celestial can't believe that he is defeated before the vessel completely disintegrates into ash. The system interface flashes brilliantly, rewarding Su-hong with a massive grand total of 843 martial value points for the kill, a truly wholesome harvest. A moment later, both Grandmasters touch down in the clearing. Grandmaster Wang rushes over at him. Su-hong just blinks, completely confused by Wang's over-the-top special treatment. To him, it just felt like a normal, slightly tougher cultist that forced him to use one of his standard trump cards. It leaves him casually wondering what kind of absurd power a genuine, full-blooded celestial genius would actually hold in the upper realms. A few days later, the grueling 7-day Hangzhou field assessment officially comes to an end. The final leaderboard updates showing our hero sitting comfortably at the absolute top as the undisputed champion. An immediate, massive commotion erupts across the entire camp. Staring at the scoreboard, several local trainees loudly complain, claiming that the leaderboard must be heavily glitched or cheated. However, the 3 Hangzhou geniuses whom Su-hong had personally saved step forward immediately, fiercely defending his honor. They provide direct testimonials on his behalf, telling the crowd that Su-hong is an absolute apex genius who single-handedly hunted down and slaughtered a literal army of Tier 3 demon cultists. When the stunned crowd asks where this legendary rookie is currently hiding, they get to know that he is currently tucked away in the private sanctuary, personally being taught Grandmaster Wang's highly coveted, exclusive A-rank healing martial art as his promised wager reward. At that exact moment, Grandmaster Wang walks out of the private training room. He approaches Qin, muttering that the boy is a complete freak, having fully mastered his complex A-rank healing technique in a mere half a day. Grandmaster Qin tells him that he'll get used to it soon enough. Inside his private chamber, Su-hong sits cross-legged, reviewing his gains. After fully learning the A-rank healing art, a soothing, vibrant wave of vitality washes through his body, completely erasing and healing all of his old, stubborn combat scars within minutes. Turning his attention to his system interface, he sees that his relentless hunting of high-tier ferocious beasts over the final days has yielded him an extra 4,800 martial value points. With a horde this massive, he realizes he can finally upgrade his mental power to officially break through into Tier 2 telekinesis, which will simultaneously force his blood chi to skyrocket past its current baseline. Meanwhile, light years away on the distant home planet of the celestial race, inside the towering, pristine celestial temple, a somber trial is taking place. The high-ranking soul who had just lost against our boy is revealed to be a noble named Tianming. He currently stands before a council of elders, facing heavy judgment and severe humiliation for losing a battle against a mere human rookie, especially since he was defeated while utilizing the sacred divine judgment authority. Tianming defends his failure, reasoning to the council that the human brat is not a normal prodigy, but an absolute monster genius. Hearing this, Tianshang is formally summoned into the chamber. He steps forward, immediately answering the call of the high elders. One of the supreme authorities looks down, giving Tianshang a cold, absolute order. Execute Su-hong immediately, eliminating him before he can grow into a catastrophic threat against their entire race. Shifting the topic, the elder asks about the status of the sacred artifact fragments they have been tracking within human territory. Tiansheng answers that while there have been reliable rumors of a shard's resonance recently, his scouts have yet to find a single physical piece. The High Authority presses down with an intense pressure, commanding him to accelerate the search and retrieve the shards at all costs, ensuring the operation is completed without any human authorities noticing their presence.